Chapter 741. The Jade Green Demon King was filled with remorse. If it had known that Ji Tianqing had such a mysterious and terrifying method, it would have pretended to be a tree without intelligence. It even wanted to devour him as nourishment. Now, it had gone for wool and come home shorn. Its hundreds of years of cultivation had been devoured by the other party instead. The entire tree had withered and withered, with countless withered branches and leaves falling from it. However, the mysterious black hole's power was extremely terrifying. It shrouded its body, making it unable to struggle or resist. The Jade Green Demon King cursed for a while. Seeing that Ji Tianqing had no intention of stopping, it begged bitterly. "Young hero. I am just an old green maple tree. After thousands of years of nurturing by the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, I have today's cultivation. I beg you to be merciful." Ji Tianqing remained silent. He focused on activating the black hole in his palm, madly devouring the ancient green maple tree's power. The vast and mighty greenwood power caused the heaven-reaching sword steel in Kenshin's tomb to be surrounded by spiritual qi. The burial of heaven also recovered its vitality and gradually awakened. Ji Tianqing's strength continued to increase. The vast greenwood power accumulated in his body was actually integrated into his limbs, bones, marrow, and flesh. His ultimate sword physique had a slight change. It was actually tempered by the greenwood power to become even stronger, and its vitality became even more boundless. He sensed that his body was actually gradually transforming into the greenwood spiritual body. The greenwood spiritual body was a rare heaven-level physique. It had all sorts of miraculous effects. Ordinary martial artists with this physique were considered top geniuses. They would definitely be able to cultivate to the heaven origin realm. This discovery made Ji Tianqing excited and full of anticipation. The Jade Green Demon King became more and more indignant and desperate. It cried and begged, "Big brother. My lord. I beg you, you have already devoured my power for more than 500 years. Spare my old life." Ji Tianqing ignored it and continued to use the black hole to devour its pure power. He wanted to use this opportunity to refine the greenwood spiritual body. However, at this moment, a tall and sturdy figure suddenly flew out from the depths of the herb garden. That figure was a white-haired old man in a green robe. His complexion was rosy, and his spirit was hale and hearty. His entire body gave off the aura of an extraordinary expert. He flew to the top of the ancient green maple tree, and after seeing the situation clearly, his expression changed and he shouted anxiously, "Stop! Stop!" Ji Tianqing was immediately awakened by this voice. He raised his head and glanced at the green-robed elder in the sky. "No, I'm so close to achieving the azure with spiritual body." As this thought flashed through his mind, he turned a deaf ear to the green-robed elder's words. He continued to use the black hole in his palm to devour the ancient tree's greenwood power. When the green-robed old man saw that the towering ancient tree had withered and its leaves had turned yellow, his heart ached and his mouth twitched. He revealed an extremely anxious expression. "Brat! Stop it! If you don't stop, this old man won't be polite anymore." The green-robed elder glared fiercely at Ji Tianqing and shouted angrily with a dignified voice. Ji Tianqing raised his head and looked at him. He asked expressionlessly, "Senior, who are you? Why are you interfering in my feud with this tree demon?" The green-robed elder frowned and said in a dignified tone, "This old man is the guardian of this herb garden." "Brat, what feud do you have with the Jade Green Demon King? Its roots have been set up with a restriction, so it can only stay in the herb garden and can't move. You must have barged into the herb garden without permission, so you were attacked by the Jade Green Demon King. You brat, not only did you barge into the herb garden, but you also injured this old man's ancient green maple tree. How should you be punished?" Hearing the green-robed elder's words, Ji Tianqing was naturally unconvinced. He retorted, "Senior, you're slandering me. I only barged into this herb garden by accident. This tree demon was too cruel and wanted to devour me as nourishment. It wanted to take my life. Can't I resist?" The green-robed elder was at a loss for words after being refuted, but he still shouted angrily, "Who are you? Why did you barge into the herb garden? Stop what you're doing and let the ancient green maple tree go. Otherwise, this old man won't go easy on you." Ji Tianqing snorted and said unhappily, "This tree demon almost killed me. How can I forgive it so easily? Unless you make it apologize to me, I won't agree." While Ji Tianqing was arguing with the green-robed elder, the black hole in his right palm was not idle. It was madly devouring the Jade Green Demon King's power. The green-robed elder could not stand it anymore. He no longer wasted his breath on him and attacked with a low shout. "Brat, you're being unreasonable. This old man can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Accept your punishment." The moment he said that, the green-robed elder raised his right hand and waved his sleeve. A huge five-colored palm that covered the sky slammed down from the sky. Swoosh! The five-colored palm with a radius of 10 meters was like a mountain crashing down. It instantly slammed down on Ji Tianqing's head. The air in all directions was suddenly squeezed and the space seemed to be sealed. The immense pressure caused Ji Tianqing's expression to change. Deep fear appeared in his eyes. He could immediately determine that the green-robed elder was either a half-step soul refinement realm cultivator or a soul refinement realm cultivator. At this critical moment, he raised his left palm without hesitation and activated the power of the true scarlet fire. Sky-burning palm. His left arm turned red like magma. Scarlet fire spewed out from his palm and condensed into a huge flaming palm that slammed into the five-colored palm. The black hole in his right hand was still devouring the Jade Green Demon King's power and rapidly refining the azure wood spiritual body. Boom! Amidst the deafening loud noise, the burning sky palm and the five-colored giant palm fiercely collided, exploding into flames that blotted out the sky and the sun, blowing up a violent and terrifying hurricane. The fire borrowed the wind's momentum and swept across the ancient green maple tree violently, turning the lush canopy into a sea of fire. The withered branches and withered leaves that had been drained of their azure wood power instantly ignited into a raging fire and black smoke rose into the sky. The Jade Green Demon King suffered and let out a painful cry. He was so angry and depressed that he almost vomited blood. The sky-burning palm blocked the green-robed elder's attack. The two giant palms shattered at the same time and quickly dissipated into the sky. The green-robed elder saw that Ji Tianqing had blocked his attack and was unharmed. His pupils constricted and he revealed a shocked expression. You brat, can actually block this old man's attack." Although the green-robed elder only used 30% of his strength, it was comparable to a half-step soul refinement realm cultivator. He originally thought that the palm strike just now would definitely be able to severely injure Ji Tianqing. The result was beyond his expectations and made him even more curious about Ji Tianqing. Of course, the ancient green maple tree was burned to a terrible state. Many of its branches were bare, which made him even more furious. "Kid, I didn't expect you to have some ability. I'd like to see if you can block this attack." After saying that, the green-robed elder waved his right hand again and shot out 3 giant swords that were dazzling with golden light toward Ji Tianqing. At the same time, Ji Tianqing's body emitted a azure with spiritual light and a majestic aura. Chapter 742. When Ji Tianqing refined the greenwood spiritual body, a mighty surge of true essence erupted from his body. His strength had increased tremendously. He was one step closer to Sky Origin Stage LV7. Moreover, his life force had doubled. His lifespan had reached the limit of Sky Origin Stage. It was close to 500 years. Such a huge gain made him feel gratified and excited. However, the 3 golden swords from the elder in green robes were about to hit his head with a destructive force. It looked like an ordinary move. It was just a casual move from the elder in green robes. However, he was a powerful soul-tempering stage cultivator after all. His swords were extremely powerful. The 3 golden swords were about 30 meters long. Not only did they have an indestructible sword intent, but they also contained the formless power of the realm. With Ji Tianqing as the center, the space within 1,000 meters was sealed by the power of the realm. The space was almost frozen. Ji Tianqing was suppressed by the power of the realm. He could not escape or dodge. All he could do was watch the golden swords coming down. The only thing he could do was to block them. At this critical moment, he used the seal of mountains and rivers without hesitation. Swoosh! The seal of mountains and rivers emitted a dazzling golden light. It expanded 1,000 times and became as big as a house. It floated above Ji Tianqing's head and protected him. In the next moment, the 3 golden swords hit the seal of mountains and rivers. Clang! 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 3 deafening sounds of metal clashing echoed in the herb garden. The incomparably sharp golden light sword was shattered on the spot, exploding into millions of golden light shards that scattered in all directions. The poor jade green monster king was hit again. Many of its branches and leaves were destroyed by the violent energy and the golden shards. It screamed in pain. The flowers and plants around the ancient tree were torn apart by the violent wind. It was a mess. Even the ground of the herb garden was hit by the wind. Countless holes were formed in the ground. The seal of mountains and rivers blocked the attack of the golden swords. Ji Tianqing was unharmed. Seeing this scene, the green-robed old man frowned fiercely, and a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. It's a soul-level magical treasure. Who is this kid? He actually possesses a soul-grade magic treasure. Although the green-robed elder didn't recognize that the seal of mountains and rivers was a region lord's golden seal, the green-robed elder didn't recognize it. But he also understood that a young expert that was capable of possessing a soul-grade magic treasure surely had an extraordinary background. Brat, who are you? Tell me your name. The green-robed old man temporarily stopped his attack and stared at Ji Tianqing with a burning gaze as he asked in a deep voice. Ji Tianqing put away the seal of mountains and rivers and looked at him indifferently. He said expressionlessly, "Do you think this matter can be written off if I tell you my name?" The old man frowned and shouted in a dignified voice, "You wish. You barged into the herb garden without permission and heavily injured this old man's ancient green maple tree. How can this old man let you off so easily? No matter who you are or what kind of background you have, this old man will take you down today and punish you severely." As he spoke, the green-robed old man slowly raised his hands, and his entire body emitted a powerful and domineering aura. Previously, he had been attacking with one hand and had only used 30% of his power. In the end, he had not been able to capture Ji Tianqing in 2 consecutive moves. Not only did he lose face, but he had also worsened Jade Green Demon King's injuries. He was finally enraged. He was going to use all his power to take down Ji Tianqing in one fell swoop. As the green-robed old man activated his power, strong winds blew in all directions in the sky. The air also became violent and fierce. The entire herb garden was sealed by an invisible force and was about to form a domain. Finally, the green-robed old man's aura reached its peak and was about to attack. Ji Tianqing also acted as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He exploded with all his power and was about to use his trump card to block the old man's attack. Right at this moment, a clear and melodious voice came from outside the herb garden. "Tianqing! Tianqing, where are you?" This was a woman's voice. It was like the sound of nature and contained a hint of coldness. However, this voice was filled with anxiety and worry. When the green-robed old man and Ji Tianqing heard this voice, their expressions changed, and they quickly stopped attacking. The two of them turned to look at the entrance of the herb garden at the same time. The battle intent that had accumulated in their bodies was quickly withdrawn. Soon after, a beautiful woman in a long white dress with an aura as cold as a fairy appeared at the entrance of the herb garden. She was blocked outside by the herb garden's defensive array and was looking into the garden anxiously. When the green-robed old man saw her, he immediately withdrew his mysterious and vast power and flew over with a smile. Swoosh! His figure flashed and teleported to the entrance of the herb garden. His eyes were gentle as he asked in a kind tone, Yao Yao, why are you here? Without a doubt, this beautiful woman in a white dress who had arrived unexpectedly was Yun Yao. When she saw the kind-looking green-robed old man, she immediately revealed a faint smile and quickly bowed. Yao Yao greets grandfather. The green-robed old man nodded with a smile. He waved his hand to open the herb garden's gate and removed the defensive array. Yun Yao quickly stepped into the herb garden and walked to the front of the green-robed old man. She asked, "Grandfather, have you seen Tianqing? Has he been here before?" Tianqing. The green-robed old man frowned and revealed a puzzled look. You mean Ji Tianqing? Is he the Mr. Right that your father told me about? Yun Yao lowered her head shyly. She nodded and said, "Yes, that's him. He's wearing a white robe and is about 18 or 19 years old. He's tall and straight and has a handsome face." When the green-robed old man heard her words, his expression suddenly became a little strange. He subconsciously turned his head and looked at Ji Tianqing in the herb garden. Yun Yao followed his gaze and immediately saw Ji Tianqing in the sky. "Tianqing. You're really here." When she saw Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao heaved a sigh of relief. There was a hint of joy in her voice. However, she immediately saw the scene in the herb garden. The half-withered ancient green maple tree, as well as the craters and broken flowers on the ground, undoubtedly proved that a battle had taken place here before. How smart was Yun Yao? When she saw the mess in the herb garden, she immediately guessed the reason. Her expression suddenly changed. She looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief and then looked at the green-robed old man beside her. "Grandpa, did you get into a fight with Tianqing just now?" "Ah." The green-robed old man's face was instantly filled with shock. He didn't know how to answer Yun Yao. He turned his head to look at Ji Tianqing and said in a strange tone, "You're Ji Tianqing. The #1 genius of the human race that Yun Zhongqi mentioned, the emperor of the monarch mansion and the ruler of the Tianjin region, is that you?" Ji Tianqing flew to the entrance of the herb garden and came to the side of the green-robed old man and Yun Yao. He was also shocked. He looked at the green-robed old man with a complicated expression and asked in disbelief, "You're Yao Yao's grandfather. Then aren't you? Miracle Dr. Bailey?" Chapter 743. Seeing their reactions, Yun Yao was even more certain of her guess. She looked at Ji Tianqing with concern and asked worriedly, "Tianqing, why did you come to Grandpa's herb garden? Did he hurt you?" Yun Yao's concern warmed Ji Tianqing's heart. When Miracle Dr. Bailey heard her words, he became even more embarrassed and sighed inwardly, "Sigh. Girls are really biased towards outsiders." Ji Tianqing waved his hand at Yun Yao and comforted her, "Yao Yao, I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me. Just now, I had a misunderstanding with Miracle Dr. Bailey, so we had a conflict and exchanged a few moves. However, he showed mercy and I wasn't hurt." "Oh right, Yao Yao, how did you find this place?" Yun Yao saw that he wasn't injured and felt slightly relieved. She quickly explained, "I've been waiting for you at the Spirit Spring in the back mountain for a long time, but you didn't come to find me. I looked for you everywhere in Cloud Spirit Palace but couldn't find you, so I personally went to Hefeng Garden. The maid in Hefeng Garden told me that you had already gone to the back mountain to find me. I guessed that you couldn't find the place and most likely went the wrong way, so I came here to find you. I didn't expect you to be here." Hearing her words, Ji Tianqing finally understood what had happened and vaguely understood something. Yun Yao looked at Miracle Dr. Bailey and said with a slightly reproachful tone, "Grandpa, you're a great expert in the spirit refining realm. How can you fight with a junior? Moreover, Tianqing almost lost his life in order to save me. He even lost a lot of his vitality. If I came a little later, I don't know what kind of trouble would have happened." Miracle Dr. Bailey loved Yun Yao very much. He had been traveling the world all these years and couldn't take care of Yun Yao and Bailey Ningsu. He was full of guilt. Hearing Yun Yao's words, although he was a little depressed and wronged, he wasn't angry at all. His old face revealed a bitter smile and explained to Yun Yao, "Yao Yao, you can't blame Grandpa for this. Grandpa was taking care of the herbs in the garden. Who knew that this kid would suddenly break into the herb garden and use a secret technique to devour the ancient green maple tree's power? That ancient green maple tree was an ancient species that grandfather had spent a few years to find in the great swamp of the southern wasteland. It was extremely rare and precious. This kid, not only did he devour the ancient green maple tree's power, he also almost destroyed the entire ancient green maple tree. Yao, tell me, how can Grandpa not be angry? Grandpa doesn't know him and he didn't tell us his name. Of course, Grandpa has to punish him. After Yunyao finished listening to Divine Dr. Bailey's words, she understood the course of events. She furrowed her brows and pulled Miracle Dr. Bailey's arm. She acted like a spoiled child and said, "Grandfather, this is a misunderstanding. You can't blame Tianqing. He was originally recuperating at his residence. I sent someone to find him and asked him to come to the spirit spring behind the mountain to find me. He's not familiar with the roads in Cloud Spirit Palace. He might have taken the wrong path and accidentally came here. He definitely wouldn't destroy your ancient green maple tree on purpose." Seeing Yunyao defend Ji Tianqing, Miracle Dr. Bailey didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The illusion dust array is set up outside. The herb garden also has a defensive array. How could he accidentally break in? Grandpa told you how to activate the illusion dust array. That's why you could pass through the array and come here. Miracle Dr. Bailey was stunned when he said this. He immediately reacted and thought of a problem. He looked at Ji Tianqing with bright eyes and asked, "Kid, how did you break in? Did you break the illusion dust array and the herb garden's defensive array?" Miracle Dr. Bailey stared at Ji Tianqing with a burning gaze. His tone was strange and his heart was filled with anticipation. Subconsciously, he didn't believe that Ji Tianqing could break the two arrays. After all, that was the supreme grade heaven essence array that he personally set up. It was very mysterious and powerful. But Ji Tianqing nodded calmly and explained, "I did break the two arrays. However, this is all a misunderstanding." Before he could finish, Miracle Dr. Bailey's eyes widened in disbelief as he let out a cry of surprise. "That's the supreme grade heaven essence array that I personally set up. You actually broke it in a short day. How is this possible?" Ji Tianqing smiled embarrassedly and didn't reply. Yunyao revealed a proud look and said to Miracle Dr. Bailey, "Grandpa, you might not know, but Tianqing's array attainments are already worthy of being called an array grandmaster. Arrays below the spirit rank can't stump him at all." Miracle Dr. Bailey was even more shocked. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a burning gaze and murmured, "No wonder Yun Zhongqi is so generous with his praise and favors you so much. Kid, you're only at Sky Origin Stage 6, but you can block 2 of my attacks and even break my array. You're indeed a prodigy." When Miracle Dr. Bailey had just returned to Cloud Spirit Palace, Yun Zhongqi had told him about Ji Tianqing and Yunyao. Not only did Yun Zhongqi introduce Ji Tianqing's background, but he also told him about his many glorious deeds. He was very satisfied with him. Miracle Dr. Bailey doted on Yunyao. Naturally, he loved her and her dog. He also had a good impression of Yunyao's Mr. Right and had always wanted to find a chance to meet him. Today, he finally met Ji Tianqing with his own eyes. Although the way they met was a little special and the process was a little awkward. However, he had personally fought with Ji Tianqing and knew Ji Tianqing's strength better. That was why he sighed. Yunyao saw that her grandfather's impression of Ji Tianqing had changed significantly. The atmosphere was also much more relaxed. She took the opportunity to say, "Grandfather, this is just a misunderstanding. Tianqing didn't mean to offend you. You're a magnanimous old man. Please don't be so calculative with Tianqing, right?" Ji Tianqing also quickly bowed to Miracle Dr. Bailey and said apologetically, "Miracle Dr. Bailey, I didn't know your identity just now. Please forgive me for offending you." Miracle Dr. Bailey's anger had already dissipated by more than half. Although the ancient green maple tree was tortured half to death and it made his heart ache. However, for Yunyao's sake, he didn't pursue Ji Tianqing's crime. He stroked his white beard and slightly nodded. Since Yao Yao is so protective of you and this matter is just a misunderstanding, how can this old man not let it go? Ji Tianqing, this old man won't be calculative with you for Yao Yao's sake. This matter is over. Fortunately, the ancient green maple tree hasn't been destroyed. This old man will take care of it for a few years and it will slowly recover. Seeing that miracle Dr. Bailey forgave Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao immediately smiled and said to him, I knew it. Grandpa, you're the most magnanimous person. Thank you, Grandpa. The level of flattery wasn't high, but it made miracle Dr. Bailey very happy as a kind smile appeared on his face. He looked at Yun Yao with an amiable expression and said, All right, Yao Yao. You take Tianqing back first. Grandpa still has to clean up the mess in the medicinal garden. Unexpectedly, Yun Yao didn't have the intention to leave. She said with a face full of expectation, Grandpa, Tianqing was eroded by the blood-dissipating curse and his vitality has been greatly damaged. Yao Yao knows that your medical skills are unparalleled in the world. You can definitely help him recuperate and recover his vitality, right? Hearing her words, miracle Dr. Bailey suddenly stared blankly. He frowned and asked, Yao Yao, you want Grandpa to treat him? Of course. Yun Yao quickly nodded and said with a smile, Yao Yao wanted to bring Tianqing to see you before and ask you to treat him. Since you've seen Tianqing today, why don't you take this opportunity to treat him? Miracle Dr. Bailey pondered and didn't speak, but he secretly smiled bitterly in his heart. Chapter 744. Miracle Dr. Bailey remained silent, seemingly unwilling to help. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing quickly persuaded Yun Yao, Yao Yao, there's no need to trouble miracle Dr. Bailey. I've already removed the blood-dissipating curse. My injuries and strength have recovered. It's nothing serious. Yun Yao shook her head and said in a concerned tone, Tianqing, although you're fine now, the blood-dissipating curse is very vicious. What if there are hidden dangers? Grandpa's medical skills are unparalleled in the world. Let him take a look at your condition. Only then can I be completely relieved. After saying that, she looked at miracle Dr. Bailey with eyes full of expectation and said eagerly, Grandpa, please help Yao Yao this time. Sigh, miracle Dr. Bailey sighed helplessly. He couldn't resist Yun Yao's persistence, so he nodded and agreed. Yao Yao, you've already said so much. How can Grandpa not help you? He looked at Ji Tianqing and slowly stretched out his right hand, releasing an invisible force of divine soul that shrouded Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing quickly waved his hand and refused. He said seriously, Miracle Dr. Bailey, you really don't have to help me. Before he could finish, Miracle Dr. Bailey frowned and shouted in a deep voice, cut the crap. Don't take advantage of me. I'll help you check your injuries. You just stand there obediently. Ji Tianqing was suddenly speechless and smiled bitterly in his heart. Sigh. It seems that I've offended Yao Yao's grandpa today. The old man has a big opinion of me. Seeing that miracle Dr. Bailey seemed to be angry, he couldn't refuse anymore. He could only stand still and let miracle Dr. Bailey use his divine soul to check him. Miracle Dr. Bailey's divine soul shrouded Ji Tianqing silently and carefully checked his condition. Whether it was his skin, flesh, internal organs, or bone marrow, nothing could hide under the investigation of divine soul. It didn't take long for miracle Dr. Bailey to figure out his physical condition. This brat's body is completely unharmed. It doesn't look like he was affected by the blood dissipation curse at all. Divine Dr. Bailey furrowed his brows as a trace of doubt flashed across his eyes. Manipulating his spiritual energy, he continued to investigate and analyze. Soon, he discovered something else that surprised him. This kid's skin, flesh, blood, and bones are actually so tough. No wonder the ancient green maple tree was unable to pierce through his skin. His physical body had been tempered to the extreme, comparable to a half-step soul refinement realm expert. This kid actually has the Greenwood spiritual body. With such a rare heaven-grade physique, he can indeed be called a top genius. No wonder he could devour the power of the ancient green maple tree. Divine Dr. Bailey was full of shock and expectation. He continued to use the soul secret technique to investigate Ji Tianqing's situation more carefully. This brat's meridians are very strange. A normal person only had 9 main meridians, but he actually had 18 meridians. Moreover, every meridian was shining with golden light and had been tempered to become incomparably tough. He actually had 108 acupoints. 36 more acupoints than a normal person. This is too inconceivable, isn't it? I've lived for 300 years and have never seen such strange meridians and acupoints. What kind of freak is he? He actually has such an unprecedented physique. The more divine Dr. Bailey investigated, the more secrets he discovered, and the more shocked he was. He even felt that his horizons had been broadened. He could not believe that there was actually someone in this world who had such a miraculous physique. As a divine doctor, he was clearer than anyone that the physical body, meridians, and acupoints were the foundation of martial arts. It determined a martial artist's martial arts talent. For a special physique like Ji Tianqing, not only did he have incomparable martial arts talent, his future martial arts achievements were also unimaginable. This kid's physique is so special. I wonder what the Yuan Dan he condensed would be like. This thought flashed across divine Dr. Bailey's mind as he used his spiritual energy to investigate Ji Tianqing's dantian. However, when his spiritual energy reached the vicinity of Ji Tianqing's dantian, it was blocked by an invisible mysterious force. He could not detect the situation of Ji Tianqing's dantian at all. All he could see was a blurry gray fog. This kid's dantian is actually protected by a mysterious and powerful force. Even my spiritual energy cannot detect it. How can this be? How can this be? What kind of secret is this kid hiding in his body? Divine Dr. Bailey was even more shocked. His heart was filled with horror and disbelief. No matter how knowledgeable he was, he had never encountered such a situation. No wonder this kid is known as the #1 genius of the human race. He has such powerful strength at such a young age. With his martial arts talent and aptitude, he will soon become a spirit cultivation realm expert. It is even highly possible that he will break through to the primordial soul realm within 100 years. A primordial soul realm expert who is not even 100 years old. He is definitely an unprecedented genius. No, he is an exceptional demon. Thinking of this, Miracle Dr. Bailey's heart was set off stormy waves, giving birth to thick excitement. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a burning gaze. While he was excited, he also felt proud and gratified for Yun Yao. Yao Yao really has a good eye for talent. She can actually pick out a demon like Ji Tianqing from the masses. No wonder Yao Yao is so infatuated with him and Yun Zhongqi likes him so much. In the entire Middle State, there is no one more outstanding than Ji Tianqing. Divine Dr. Bailey was not only a spirit cultivation realm expert but also a peerless divine doctor. His judgment and knowledge were very unique and accurate. He had never seen Ji Tianqing before. He had only heard about Ji Tianqing from Yun Zhongqi and Bailey Ningsu. At that time, he did not believe that Ji Tianqing was that outstanding. He had always been skeptical. Today, he saw Ji Tianqing with his own eyes. He even checked Ji Tianqing's talent, foundation, and physique. He finally believed Yun Zhongqi's words. In fact, he even felt that Yun Zhongqi's evaluation of Ji Tianqing wasn't accurate enough. In his opinion, Ji Tianqing was more than the #1 genius of the human race. In the entire Tianxian continent, there was no one more outstanding than Ji Tianqing. This kid could be called the #1 genius of the continent. Thinking of this, divine Dr. Bailey quickly retracted his divine soul. He nodded excitedly and praised with a gratified face, "Good. Good. That's great." Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao were confused by Zhang Xian's agitated reaction. They were filled with doubt. Yun Yao frowned and asked in confusion, "Grandpa, what's wrong with you? What's great?" Cough, cough. Divine Dr. Bailey came back to his senses and pretended to cough to cover up his embarrassment. His expression became calm again. Stroking his white beard, he said to Yun Yao with a kind face, "Of course, I'm talking about Ji Tianqing's injuries. I've checked him carefully. There's no injury in his body, and there's no remnant of the curse. He can't be any better. Yun Yao was relieved when she heard this. However, she felt that her grandfather's reaction was a little strange. She asked worriedly, "Grandfather, you're not lying to me, right? Is Tianqing really okay?" Divine Dr. Bailey stared at her and said in a dignified tone, "You child. How could I lie to you?" Yun Yao was completely relieved. She bowed to him and said, "Thank you for your help, grandfather." Ji Tianqing also bowed to him and thanked him. Divine Dr. Bailey stroked his beard and nodded calmly, "All right, if there's nothing else, you can go back. Grandfather, we won't disturb you anymore. We'll take our leave now." Yun Yao hurriedly bowed and took her leave. Then, she left the herb garden with Ji Tianqing. Divine Dr. Bailey stood at the entrance of the herb garden. Looking at Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao's backs, a gratified smile flashed in his eyes. Chapter 745. An hour later, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao left the back of the mountain and returned to Hefeng Garden. After closing the door, the two of them entered the study and began to talk secretly. Yun Yao looked at Ji Tianqing and asked in a serious tone, "Tianqing, I asked the maid, Zhu, to look for you. How did you go the wrong way and run to grandfather's herb garden? Didn't Zhu bring you there personally?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said calmly, "The maid said that servants were not allowed to enter the forbidden area, so she pointed the way for me and told me to go right. I walked along the path on the right and broke into an illusion array. After I broke the array, I arrived at the entrance of Miracle Dr. Bailey's herb garden." "I see." Yun Yao suddenly understood. A cold light flashed in her eyes as she thought to herself, Zhu has been in Cloud Spirit Palace for 20 years and is very familiar with the situation in the palace. She must know that the left side of the fork is the spirit spring, and the right side is grandfather's herb garden. It seems that she deliberately pointed Tianqing the wrong way, which caused Tianqing to fall into the illusion array and break into grandfather's herb garden. Thinking of this, Yun Yao's expression turned cold, and a trace of anger surged in her heart. Zhu is just a maid. She definitely doesn't have the guts to frame Tianqing. It's most likely that cousin ordered her to do it. Why did cousin do this? That illusion array is not a killing array, so it won't endanger Tianqing's life. However, Tianqing is trapped in the illusion array. If he can't break the array, he will be trapped for at least half a month. Why did cousin set up a trap to trap Tianqing? It's clearly the first time he met Tianqing, and he doesn't have any grudges with Tianqing. Moreover, cousin has always been very sensible and is deeply valued and trusted by my mother. Thinking of this, Yun Yao's body suddenly stiffened, and a thought flashed through her mind. Could it be that my mother ordered cousin to do this? On the surface, she accepted Tianqing, but in reality, she still doesn't agree with me being with Tianqing? Yun Yao's mood suddenly became a little gloomy, and her eyes became disappointed and angry. Ji Tianqing sensed that something was wrong with her and hurriedly asked, "Yao Yao, what's wrong?" Yun Yao came back to her senses and shook her head gently. "I'm fine. I'm just a little scared and relieved. Fortunately, I arrived in time and Grandpa didn't hurt you. If I had been a little late, the consequences would have been unimaginable. There would have been no way to resolve this matter." Ji Tianqing quickly comforted her, "Yao Yao, you worry too much. Dr. Bailey is a highly respected senior who is benevolent. Even if he's angry, he won't kill me. At most, he'll capture me and punish me." Yun Yao nodded and said with a tone of self-blame, "Tianqing, I didn't think this through and was careless. I thought that there wouldn't be any conspiracies in my own home, so I let my guard down. I didn't expect that I would almost make a big mistake. Later, I will send a trusted maid to serve you in Hefeng Garden. If there's anything, I will let her pass on the message." Ji Tianqing originally wanted to refuse, but he was afraid that Yun Yao would be worried, so he nodded and agreed. "That's good. At least no one will have a chance to take advantage of this. I didn't expect that Cloud Spirit Palace isn't peaceful either. Someone actually wants to harm me. From now on, I will be more careful and won't cause you any trouble. Yunyao held his hands and gently shook her head. Tianqing, as long as it's related to you, it's not trouble to me. I'm not afraid of trouble. I'm only afraid that you will be hurt. Tianqing nodded and smiled. He opened his arms and hugged her. The two of them hugged each other intimately and snuggled tightly together. Although the two of them did not speak, their minds were connected. They understood each other's worries and concerns. The two of them were affectionate for a while. Then Yunyao stood up and left Hefeng Garden. After she left Hefeng Garden, it was almost noon. Yunyao didn't go back to her palace. She went straight to Zhu Fifen's residence to find him. Half an hour later, she entered the house where Zhu Fifen lived. When the guards at the gate saw her, they didn't dare to stop or ask questions. They immediately knelt on the ground and saluted her respectfully. "Greetings, miss." Yunyao ignored them. She stepped through the gate with a frosty face, passed through the house full of elixirs, and walked into the dignified hall and living room. Two clever maids quickly poured tea for her and prepared a seat for her. However, Yunyao stood in the hall expressionlessly. She had no intention of sitting down. She ordered in a cold voice, "Go and report to the young master. Ask him to come to the hall to see me." The two maids were stunned. They could tell that Yunyao didn't come with good intentions, so they quickly left the hall to report the news. It didn't take long for Zhu Fifen to come after hearing the news. He gracefully stepped into the hall with a purple jade folding fan. When he saw Yunyao's figure, he immediately showed a warm smile and said in a gentle tone, "Cousin Yao Yao, why do you suddenly want to see your cousin today?" "Cousin, don't stand there. Please sit down and talk." Zhu Fifen walked to Yunyao and asked her to sit down and drink tea. However, Yunyao glanced at him indifferently and said in a deep voice, "Ask the servants to leave. I have something to tell you." Zhu Fifen's heart suddenly thumped when he saw her reaction. He had a bad premonition. However, he remained calm on the surface and still maintained a gentle and elegant smile. He waved his hand to signal the maids and guards to leave. When the servants left and only the two of them were left in the hall, Zhu Fifen said calmly, "Cousin Yao Yao, you can say what you want to say now." Yunyao looked at him sharply and said in a cold and firm tone, "Zhu Fifen, Tianqing is my husband. I won't marry anyone else but him in this life. I must grow old with him. No one, not even my mother, can stop me from being with Tianqing." Zhu Fifen pretended not to understand the meaning of her words. He nodded with a smile and said, "Of course, Tianqing and you are a match made in heaven. A talented man and a beautiful woman, a perfect match. Even if concubine doesn't agree with you being together for the time being, she will accept Tianqing sooner or later. As for me, I have always blessed you from the beginning to the end. Otherwise, I wouldn't have told you about the Nirvana crystal and helped you save Tianqing." Yunyao frowned slightly and said in a cold tone, "Since you know this, you should learn to be smarter and stop having crooked thoughts. If you are stubborn and dare to do something unfavorable to Tianqing, don't blame me for being ruthless. At that time, there will be no place for you in Yunling Palace." Zhu Fifen's face suddenly stiffened and showed a startled expression. He asked in confusion, "Yao Yao, what are you talking about? Why can't I understand what you are saying? How can I be unfavorable to Tianqing? Did you misunderstand something?" Yunyao glanced at him, but didn't want to waste her breath on him. She said in a deep voice, "You don't have to say more. I know the truth." Chapter 746. After Yunyao said this, she turned around and walked out of the hall. She quickly left. Zhu Fifen stood in the hall and looked at Yunyao's back as she left. His face turned gloomy. "I didn't expect that I couldn't hide it from Yunyao. She figured out the truth so quickly. Tianqing, that brat, was trapped in the illusion dust array. How could he break it so quickly? What kind of freak is he? I have been very careful, but I still underestimated him." Zhu Fifen's handsome face was faintly cold. His eyes were flickering with a cold light, as well as a strong hatred. Even though I have been living in Cloud Spirit Palace for 20 years and have been working for Aunt Yunyao loyally, they still don't treat me as their family. On the contrary, Ji Tianqing, that bastard, has only been to Cloud Spirit Palace twice and hasn't married Yunyao yet. Now, they treat him as their family. Yunyao threatened me and even wanted to kick me out of Cloud Spirit Palace for Ji Tianqing. I have had enough of the humiliation of living under someone else's roof. Zhu Fifan roared in his heart. Deep humiliation and anger caused his face to contort and his eyes to surge with deep hatred. Unknowingly, 2 days had passed. Today was the 5th day that Ji Tianqing had been living in Cloud Spirit Palace. Since that incident, Ji Tianqing had been staying in Hefeng Garden to practice the pure heart demon subduing skill. He didn't even step out of the door of the small courtyard. As he continued to practice, he had a deeper understanding of the pure heart demon subduing skill. He felt that this skill was mysterious and powerful. He had made up his mind to practice the pure heart demon subduing skill in addition to practicing the sword heart Dao in order to improve his strength rapidly. For the past 2 days, he had been practicing in seclusion in his room. The little black dragon had been sleeping in the 100 treasures brocade pouch. Although it had expressed that it wanted to find the dragon crystal as soon as possible so that it could advance to heaven origin stage smoothly. However, it also knew that Ji Tianqing was busy with other things and didn't have time to help it find the dragon crystal. It could only suppress this thought at the bottom of its heart and silently cultivate to increase its strength. Qianyu, on the other hand, could not stay idle. After staying in the 100 treasures brocade pouch for 2 days, she felt bored and wanted to go out for some fresh air. Ji Tianqing did not stop it and allowed it to go out and play. It enjoyed the scenery and beauties in Cloud Soul Palace. After all, there were countless maids and maidservants in Cloud Spirit Palace. They were all beautiful and pleasing to the eye. Of course, when Qianyu was playing around in Cloud Spirit Palace, she remembered Ji Tianqing's warning and did not cause any trouble. On the contrary, it was very smart and well-behaved. It was deeply loved by the maidservants of Cloud Soul Palace and played with them very happily. Cloud Spirit Palace was peaceful and peaceful. The atmosphere was harmonious and calm. There were only 5 days left until Divine Dr. Bailey's birthday banquet. The entire Yun family was busy with this matter. The palace was filled with a festive atmosphere. Many servants and maids had already begun to decorate the palace with lanterns and banners. That night, the night sky was dark, with no stars or moon. There was a city thousands of miles away from Cloud Soul Palace called Autumn Wind City. This ancient city had a history of 800 years and exuded an ancient and vigorous aura. Autumn Wind City was very quiet at night. There were very few people on the streets. In a certain deep house in the south of the city, a few dim yellow lights were lit. In a secret room in the depths of the house, 2 middle-aged men were whispering to each other. One of them was thin and had a resolute and dignified face. He sat upright on a large white jade chair. This man wore a square azure crown and had a goatee on his chin. He was the head of the Duanmu family, Duanmu Huang. The other middle-aged man wore a purple robe and had a tall and burly figure. His eyes faintly flashed with a frightening cold light and his entire body was filled with killing intent. This man was the hall master of the Hall of Soul Husbandry, Xing Jian. He stood in front of Duanmu Huang and said in a respectful tone, "Master, I have already completed the task you asked me to do. I've already informed the spy, and she'll be here soon." Hearing this, Duanmu Huang slightly nodded and revealed a cold smile. Many years ago, when I decided to deal with Cloud Soul Palace, I had already placed many spies in Cloud Soul Palace. After so many years, many of my spies have been exposed and eliminated by the Yun family. Only Luo was hidden the deepest. Not only was she not discovered or suspected, but she was also highly valued by the Yun family and became their trusted aide. This time, she can finally be put to good use. As the hall master of the Soul Herding Hall, Xing Jian was a cruel and bloodthirsty assassin. He was not good at flattery. He did not take the opportunity to flatter. Instead, he asked in confusion, "Master, in order to not expose Luo's identity, you have not contacted her for so many years. Why did you suddenly contact her tonight? Could it be that you have already arranged the next step of the plan? Duanmu Huang nodded and revealed a confident smile. Of course. This time, I will give the Yun family a big surprise. That old bastard, Yun Zhongqi, actually joined forces with Ji Tianqing. He supported Ji Tianqing and destroyed my Duanmu family's herb garden. He caused my Duanmu family to fall into such a pitiful state. Furthermore, he wants to use the opportunity of Miracle Dr. Bailey's birthday celebration to gather all the influential people in Zhong State to discuss important matters. He wants to snatch Zhong State's herb market. Yun Zhongqi is so ruthless and wants to kill all of us. How can I let him go? During this birthday celebration, I will definitely cause chaos in Cloud Soul Palace and make Ji Tianqing and the Yun family become enemies. Hearing this, Xing Jian revealed a shocked and confused expression. He asked, Master, Ji Tianqing and the Yun family have a close relationship. Yun Zhongqi likes him very much. How can they be enemies? What plan do you have? Duanmu Huang revealed a meaningful expression and sneered, you don't have to ask. You will know later. Not long after, light footsteps could be heard from outside the secret room. A cold female voice could be heard through the stone door. Luo is here on orders to meet Master. Hearing this voice, Duanmu Huang revealed a faint smile and waved his hand to signal Xing Jian to open the stone door. After the stone door opened, a figure wearing a black robe and a cloak walked into the secret room. This person's figure was covered by a large black robe and her face was covered by a cloak. It was impossible to tell her appearance and age. Only her voice could tell that she was a young woman. Without a doubt, she was the spy that Duanmu Huang had arranged many years ago, Luo. Luo walked in front of Duanmu Huang and bowed respectfully. She said in a respectful tone, Master, please give your orders. Duanmu Huang did not waste any time. He looked at Luo with a burning gaze and ordered sternly, Luo, Ji Tianqing is now in Cloud Soul Palace. He is waiting to attend Miracle Dr. Bailey's birthday celebration. Chapter 747. Hearing Duanmu Huang's words, Xing Jian and Luo were stunned. The two of them never thought that Duanmu Huang's plan and orders would be like this. Xing Jian frowned. His eyes glinted as he thought to himself, the patriarch's vicious plan is too vicious. Once Luo's plan succeeds, Cloud Soul Palace will fall into chaos and Divine Dr. Bailey's birthday banquet will be ruined. Ji Tianqing would definitely become Cloud Spirit Palace's mortal enemy. He would completely break off all ties with Cloud Spirit Palace and become their enemy. At that time, Yun Zhongqi will be filled with anger and kill him with a single palm, right? Luo was silent for a moment and said in a low voice, Master, although this plan is vicious, it will be very difficult to succeed. Duanmu Huang nodded and his lips curled into a cold smile. He said, That's right, it will be very difficult. However, you have always been highly regarded by the Yun family and Bailey Ningsu. You know Bailey Ningsu the best and the chances of success are very high. The difficult part is that Bailey Ningsu also knows you well and her strength is not bad. I'm afraid it will be very easy for her to recognize your aura and see through your disguise. However, since I asked you to carry out this plan, how could I not have made preparations? As he spoke, Duanmu Huang took out a mysterious sandalwood box from his interspatial ring. There are 3 things in this box. Other than a magic dagger, there is also a pill and a mask. They are all secret treasures I obtained from the Murong family. The pill can conceal your aura and help you fake Ji Tianqing's aura. The mask is also a magic tool that can make you look like Ji Tianqing. No one under the spirit refining realm will be able to see through your disguise. As for the dagger, it is incomparably sharp and indestructible. Moreover, it has been dipped in poison. As he spoke, Duanmu Huang handed the sandalwood box to Luo. Luo received the sandalwood box with both hands and solemnly put it away. He quickly bowed and said, Since Master has considered everything so thoroughly, this subordinate will not disappoint you. Master, please wait for this subordinate's good news. After he finished speaking, Luo bowed and left the secret room. After Luo left, Duanmu Huang revealed a sinister smile and muttered to himself, "Hee, there will be a good show to watch very soon." Ji Tianqing, Ji Tianqing, I really want to see how you will feel when Yun Zhongqi, who you rely on, kills you with his own hands. How would you feel when the person you love turns against you and wants to kill you to avenge her mother? Ha ha ha. Duanmu Huang laughed coldly, his tone filled with coldness and venom, making one's hair stand on end. Cloud's Soul Palace was peaceful as usual. For the next 2 days, Ji Tianqing cultivated in Hefeng Garden. His strength was steadily increasing, and his White Heart Devil subduing art had also reached the small success stage. During this period, Qian Yu went out to play every day. She got along well with the maids in Cloud's Soul Palace and became familiar with them. Yun Yao visited Ji Tianqing every day and chatted with him about some interesting things in the palace. Divine Dr. Bailey also sent someone to the Wind Garden to give Ji Tianqing a bottle of Spirit Dawn that could help him cultivate and improve his power. Ji Tianqing asked Yun Yao and found out that she had asked Miracle Dr. Bailey to give him the elixir, which was very beneficial to his cultivation. Other than that, no one else came to disturb Ji Tianqing. Zhu Fifan also tactfully avoided it, and never appeared again. 2 days passed quickly. Miracle Dr. Bailey's 300th birthday was in 2 days' time. In these few days, everyone in the Yun family was busy preparing for the birthday banquet. Cloud's Soul Palace was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. Some guests had already arrived in advance. Tomorrow, more guests would come to the banquet and Cloud's Soul Palace would be more lively. When night fell, in Thousand Cloud Palace, Bailey Ningsu was sitting at the table in her room, holding a cup of spirit tea and silently sipping it. She frowned and thought about something. Her personal maid, Yun Luo, stood quietly to the side, not making the slightest sound to avoid disturbing her thoughts. The matter between Yao Yao and Ji Tianqing is now known by everyone in Cloud Soul Palace. Many people have a good impression of Ji Tianqing. Many of the younger generation even respect and worship Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing, this brat, not only is he talented in martial arts, but he also has a mysterious background. He is also infatuated with Yao Yao and would rather sacrifice his life to save Yao Yao. These thoughts flashed through Bailey Ningsu's mind and her heart was slightly warm. She thought to herself, Ji Tianqing is growing so fast that he can be a good match for Yao Yao. Moreover, he is so attentive to Yao Yao, which makes me, as his mother, feel relieved. A woman, even if she is a noble, must marry a man who is devoted to her in order to obtain happiness. Since it is like this, why don't I use this opportunity to probe Ji Tianqing and see if he has any plans to get married? If the conditions are right, I will let him and Yao Yao get married as soon as possible and settle the matter between me and Patriarch. Bailey Ningsu thought for a while and finally made up her mind. She ordered Yun Luo beside her, Yun Luo, go to Hefeng Garden and ask Ji Tianqing to come see me. Tell him that I want to see him alone and discuss something important with him. Yun Luo nodded and quickly cupped her hands, this servant obeys. After speaking, Yun Luo turned and left. After she left Thousand Cloud Palace, she went straight to Hefeng Garden. Outside the palace, the curtain of night was already dark. Inside Cloud Soul Palace, the lanterns were lit and everywhere was brightly lit. Yun Luo left Thousand Cloud Palace and rushed to Hefeng Garden while frowning. In 2 days, Divine Dr. Bailey's birthday banquet will be held. I don't have much time left. I have waited for a few days and haven't found a suitable opportunity. If I don't act now, I won't be able to complete Master's orders. Bailey Ningsu wants to see Ji Tianqing alone, this is a good opportunity. Why don't I take this opportunity? Thinking of this, Yun Luo made up her mind. Seeing that there was no one around, she rushed to the left side of the road behind a jade statue. Not long after, when she came out from behind the statue and returned to the Bluestone Road, she had already changed her appearance. Previously, she was wearing the Yun family's servant's embroidered dress. Now, she had changed into a luxurious white robe and combed her hair into a bun, becoming a man. Moreover, her body shape had also changed. She had become a tall and handsome young man in high spirits. Especially her appearance, she had also changed into a handsome and extraordinary man's face. Her figure, appearance, and aura were all the same as Ji Tianqing's. Yun Luo did not dare to delay any longer. She quickly turned and left, following the main road back to Thousand Cloud Palace. After she left, not far from the roadside forest, an ice-blue figure appeared. Chapter 748. Qian Yu held a jar of wine in its paws and was about to rush back to Yifeng Garden to invite Ji Tianqing to taste the wine. However, it saw a strange scene just now. It clearly saw a tall and thin servant girl walk up to the statue by the roadside. In the blink of an eye, a young man walked out from behind the statue. Moreover, the back and appearance of the young man in white robes vaguely resembled Ji Tianqing. Qian Yu was stunned. It shook its head vigorously and muttered to itself, "Eh?" It was clearly a woman. How did she turn into a man in the blink of an eye? And he looks like old Ji. Could it be that I drank too much and my eyes were playing tricks on me? Qian Yu was full of doubts. It quickly flew behind the jade statue and looked around. The result was obvious. There was no one behind the statue. There was not even a shadow. That's not right. This is too strange. There must be a problem. No, I have to hurry back and find old Ji. Qian Yu immediately sobered up. It realized that something was wrong and quickly turned around to return to Yifeng Garden. Swoosh! Qian Yu hugged the wine jar and flew back to Yifeng Garden. As soon as it entered the courtyard, it did not have time to put down the wine jar. It rushed to Ji Tianqing's door. Old Ji! Old Ji, are you there? Qian Yu shouted through the door, its voice filled with anxiety. In the dimly lit room, Ji Tianqing's voice immediately sounded. Qian Yu, what happened? Following his voice, the door opened with a creak. Qian Yu rushed into the room and saw Ji Tianqing sitting on the bed, looking at it suspiciously. Seeing Ji Tianqing's posture, it was obvious that he had been meditating in the room. Seeing this, Qian Yu was even more certain that something was wrong. It quickly said to Ji Tianqing, "Old Ji, on my way back, I saw something strange." A servant girl went behind a statue by the roadside and turned into a man in the blink of an eye. He looked exactly like you. Ji Tianqing suddenly frowned and showed a puzzled expression. Qian Yu, are you drunk? What nonsense are you talking about? Qian Yu looked down at the wine jar and quickly placed it on the table. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a serious face and said in a serious tone, "Old Ji, I'm not drunk. I saw it with my own eyes." Ji Tianqing saw that it was clear-headed and didn't seem to be lying, so he said seriously, "Then tell me slowly, what happened?" "It's like this, when I came back just now." Qian Yu hurriedly told the story in full detail, not concealing or omitting anything. After listening to its words, Ji Tianqing immediately frowned, and his face became somewhat gloomy. "You're saying that you personally saw a maid taking on my appearance and rushing toward the Thousand Cloud Palace?" "Yeah." Qian Yu quickly nodded and said in a low voice, "Old Ji, I think this matter is very strange, I'm afraid there's some conspiracy. The Thousand Cloud Palace is Yun Yao's mother's palace. Why don't we quickly go and take a look? We don't want to cause any misunderstandings." Ji Tianqing also had the same idea and immediately got out of bed. "Let's go, we'll go quickly. I want to see who's playing tricks and what kind of tricks they're trying to play." As he spoke, he led Qian Yu out the door. Inside the Thousand Cloud Palace, the lights were bright and the atmosphere was peaceful and solemn. Dressed in a white robe and disguised as Ji Tianqing, Yun Luo calmly walked through the corridor and stairs towards Bailey Ningsu's room. Along the way, when the servants and guards saw her, they all showed a respectful expression and respectfully saluted her, calling her young Master Ji. Yun Luo didn't pay attention to these servants and guards at all. Along the way, she was silent and calm. A moment later, she arrived outside Bailey Ningsu's room and said in a low voice, "Junior Ji Tianqing greets Madam Yun." Inside the luxurious and elegant room, Bailey Ningsu was sitting by the table in deep thought. Hearing Ji Tianqing's voice, she immediately recovered and said in a gentle voice, "Come in." The door opened and Yun Luo walked in, standing in front of Bailey Ningsu. Tianqing greets Auntie. What instructions does Auntie have for summoning me in the middle of the night? Yun Luo's voice and tone were exactly the same as Ji Tianqing's. Her posture was also neither servile nor overbearing, revealing a trace of confidence and pride. Bailey Ningsu looked at him with a gentle gaze and reached out a slender hand, indicating for him to sit down and talk. Tianqing, you don't need to be so nervous. Auntie summoned you here to discuss a matter with you alone. Bailey Ningsu's expression and tone were very gentle. There was even a faint smile on her face. At this moment, she had accepted Ji Tianqing from her heart. Her entire body was emitting the radiance of a mother, as well as the benevolence and bearing of an elder. What does Auntie want to discuss with me? Yun Luo pretended to sit down next to Bailey Ningsu as she spoke. Without a sound, she was already within 5 steps of Bailey Ningsu. This distance was the best for a Sky Origin stage expert to attack. One strike was sure to hit, and there was no way to dodge. However, Bailey Ningsu wasn't prepared at all. She didn't know that this Ji Tianqing in front of her had already begun to emit a murderous intent. She lowered her head and held the teacup, gently sipping a mouthful of spirit tea. She was thinking of how to tactfully test Ji Tianqing's attitude. While she was deep in thought, Yun Luo's eyes suddenly flashed with a cold light. She secretly shouted in her heart, "Now!" At the same time, Yun Luo suddenly stretched out her right hand that was hidden in her sleeve. Holding a coldly flickering dagger, she ruthlessly stabbed it towards Bailey Ningsu's chest. The two of them were only 5 steps apart. She could reach Bailey Ningsu with just a stretch of her hand. Her speed was very fast. Moreover, it was an assassination that had been accumulating energy for a long time. It could be said that she was determined to succeed. The coldly flickering dagger was suffused with a blue light. It was obviously dipped in poison. Moreover, this dagger was prepared by Duanmu Huang for Yun Luo. It had already reached the level of a magic tool. There was nothing it couldn't pierce. Bailey Ningsu had just sensed that something was wrong. Before she could react, she only felt a blur in front of her eyes and a cold stab of pain came from her chest. Clang! The chopstick-length dagger ruthlessly stabbed towards Bailey Ningsu's left chest. However, it was blocked by something, letting out a metallic sound. Yun Luo immediately sensed that something was wrong. She stared at Bailey Ningsu's wound and saw that she was actually wearing a tight-fitting soft armor. That dark golden soft armor was also a magic tool. Its defensive power was very strong. Although the dagger tore through the soft armor and successfully stabbed into Bailey Ningsu's chest. However, the position of the wound was a bit off. The dagger didn't pierce through her heart. Chapter 749. Bailey Ningsu's face turned as white as snow, her eyes wide open. She looked at the dagger in her chest, then slowly raised her head to look at Yun Luo, revealing an expression of disbelief. She simply couldn't believe it, and coldly asked, "Ji Tianqing, why?" Yun Luo used her right hand to pull the dagger out. The dagger immediately brought out a stream of hot blood, spraying onto the table. She looked at Bailey Ningsu with a cold smile, and coldly shouted, "Why should I kill you? Don't you understand? Yao Yao and I are truly in love, but you're obstructing us in every way possible. As long as I kill you, no one will be able to stop me from being together with Yao Yao." Hearing Yun Luo's words, Bailey Ningsu's body trembled, and she suddenly revealed a bitter cold smile. "Ha ha ha. Ji Tianqing. I only recently accepted you, and wanted to discuss the matter between you and Yao Yao. I didn't expect that you're so dignified and refined on the surface, but your heart is actually so vicious and ruthless. I must have been blind to actually believe you." Bailey Ningsu angrily shouted, and immediately raised her right hand, exploding with all her strength, and fiercely slapped towards Yun Luo. Although Bailey Ningsu was stabbed by the dagger, poisoned, and had a black line on her neck, she was still the Yun Luo clan's master. She was still the Yun clan's matriarch, a Sky Origin Stage 7th layer expert. Filled with grief and anger, she hatefully sent out a palm strike, containing a valiant power, releasing a dazzling light. However, Yun Luo was already prepared, and immediately raised her arms in front of her, blocking Bailey Ning Su's palm strike. Bang! Yun Luo was hit by the five-colored palm, and was sent flying, fiercely slamming into the wall. Bang! With a muffled sound, Yun Luo crashed into the wall, creating a human-shaped hole, and fell into the next room. The entire wall was torn apart and immediately collapsed, turning into rubble that came crashing down. Yun Luo rolled on the ground twice, and then jumped up to his feet. Her strength was not much weaker than Bailey Ningsu's, and she was already prepared, even wearing a tight armor. The power of Bailey Ningsu's palm was completely neutralized by her, and she was not injured in the slightest. Bailey Ningsu, prepare to die. Yun Luo's killing intent soared as he charged at Bailey Ningsu like a bolt of lightning, stabbing his dagger towards her throat. The poison in Bailey Ningsu's body had already flared up, and the true essence in her body was blocked. She actually couldn't use much strength. When she saw Ji Tianqing charging towards her, she could only retreat and take out a white silk Dharma artifact from her interspatial ring to block the attack. Chaotic dance of heavenly stars. Bailey Ningsu shouted in a low voice. Her left hand covered the bleeding wound while her right hand waved the white silk magic tool, scattering specks of light towards Yun Luo. Peng peng peng. Yun Luo desperately brandished his dagger, stabbing out dozens of cold lights, shattering Bailey Ningsu's attack. The violent energy exploded, immediately turning the luxurious and elegant room into a mess. Both the ground and the walls were cracked, and dense cracks appeared on their surface. The tables, chairs, and furniture in the room were all blown to pieces, splashing everywhere and creating muffled, peng 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 sounds when they hit the walls. Yun Luo took this opportunity to pass through the scattered starlight, instantly arriving in front of Bailey Ningsu and stabbing his dagger towards her throat. Bailey Ningsu didn't have time to dodge and could only lean backwards to avoid this fatal blow. Rip! The dagger glowing with blue light tore through her robe and soft armor on her right shoulder, leaving behind a chopstick-sized wound. The wound was so deep that bone could be seen, and blood immediately spurted out. Bailey Ningsu was sent flying by the powerful impact, crashing into a wall and tumbling into the living room outside the room. Her injuries were even more disastrous, and the poison in her body was difficult to suppress, fiercely erupting. She could no longer muster any strength, and her entire body became limp and powerless. Black lines appeared on her snow-white cheeks. Bailey Ningsu still had the graceful posture of a mother, but now her hair was disheveled, her body was covered in blood, and her appearance was extremely miserable. The phoenix-tail jade crown on her head and the golden buyao in her hair all fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Without waiting for her to crawl up from the ground, Yun Luo rushed over again. Die! Yun Luo coldly shouted with a murderous aura. He fiercely waved his dagger, fiercely stabbing it towards Bailey Ningsu's forehead. Seeing that Bailey Ningsu's strength was scattered, she was unable to block the attack and was about to lose her life. At this critical moment, the door was smashed into smithereens with a bang. Two tall and sturdy figures rushed in like ferocious tigers. These two people were wearing silver armor and holding standard swords. They were clearly the guards of the Thousand Cloud Palace. Besides, they were both leaders of the guards who were at the third level of the Sky Origin stage. Bold thief, hand over your life. You dare to assassinate the mistress, you're courting death. When the two guard commanders saw the situation in the room, they were so angry that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets as they shouted. The two of them rushed to Bailey Ningsu's side with the fastest speed in their lives. Without hesitation, they stood in front of Bailey Ningsu, using their flesh and blood to block Yun Luo's attack. Puchi! The cold glint of the dagger instantly pierced through the throat of one of the guard commanders. A bloody hole appeared in the guard commander's throat as he spat out a mouthful of hot blood. His eyes widened on the spot as he stopped breathing and fell to the ground. The other guard commander was furious. He used all of his strength to brandish his sword, fiercely stabbing it towards Yun Luo. Yun Luo's attack was blocked. He immediately jumped back and brandished his dagger to fight with the guard commander. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Bailey Ningsu hurriedly crawled up from the ground and retreated to the door. After exchanging 3 moves with the guard commander, Yun Luo heavily injured the guard commander and chopped off one of his arms. However, the sound of the battle had already alarmed the entire Thousand Cloud Palace. Countless dazzling flames lit up the palace. More than a dozen silver-armored guards were rushing over as fast as lightning. Even those loyal maids and maids hurriedly shouted for help and quickly came to rescue the mistress. Bang bang bang. Following a series of muffled footsteps, a noble young master dressed in luxurious clothes arrived with a few guards. The person was Zhu Fifan. As soon as he rushed into the room, he saw that the room was in a mess. There was also a guard commander's corpse lying on the ground. His concubine's clothes were stained with blood and her injuries were quite serious. She looked very miserable. And the person who assassinated Bailey Ningsu was actually Ji Tianqing. Zhu Fifan suddenly glared at him and shouted with shock and anger, "Ji Tianqing! It's actually you! You vicious bastard, you dare to assassinate the mistress!" Seeing Zhu Fifan rushing into the room with the guards, Yun Luo was immediately filled with anger and showed a strong resentment in her eyes. Although her heart was full of unwillingness, she had to accept the reality. Chapter 750. Yun Luo hated that she couldn't kill Bailey Ningsu quickly. Instead, she alarmed the guards of the Thousand Cloud Palace. By now, more and more guards and maids were rushing over. It was impossible for her to continue to assassinate Bailey Ningsu. If she continued to stay, when the experts of the Yun family arrived, her identity would be exposed. Thinking of this, she suppressed the anger and killing intent in her heart and turned around to escape without hesitation. Bang! Yun Luo turned into a ball of golden light, crashed through the side window and escaped from Bailey Ningsu's room. In the blink of an eye, she escaped from the Thousand Cloud Palace and into the dark night, fleeing far away. Ji Tianqing! You bastard, don't think you can escape. In the room, Zhu Fifan cursed furiously. He subconsciously rushed forward and wanted to lead the guards to chase Ji Tianqing. However, he was only in the Yuan Dan stage and couldn't fly. When he saw Bailey Ningsu's serious injuries, he immediately stopped and asked with concern, "Aunt, how are your injuries? Are you alright?" Bailey Ningsu had already taken out a spirit pill and temporarily blocked the poison in her body with the help of the pill. She inherited most of the medical skills of Divine Dr. Bailey and was also a medical master. For a short time, she could still resist the poison in her body and her life would not be in danger. Bailey Ningsu sat on the chair with a pale face, waved her hand and said in a weak voice, "Don't worry about me, I can still hold on. Take some men and chase after him immediately. You must capture Ji Tianqing." "Yes." Zhu Fifan no longer hesitated and quickly cupped his fist to accept the order and left the room with a group of guards. Everyone rushed out of the Thousand Cloud Palace and saw Yun Luo's figure disappear in the night sky. "Chase!" Zhu Fifan waved his hand and gave the order, leading the 9 guards to chase with all their strength. Swish swish swish. Everyone's speed was extremely fast, like lightning cutting through the night sky, quickly passing through 2 palaces and a house. However, when everyone chased to a straight bluestone road, they completely lost track of Yun Luo and could no longer catch up. The 9 guards had to stop and frowned at Zhu Fifan, waiting for him to make a decision. Zhu Fifan panted and looked around sharply, looking for traces of Yun Luo. Damn Ji Tianqing, he escaped. However, his evil deeds have been exposed, he can't escape from Cloud Spirit Palace. Zhu Fifan could not understand why Ji Tianqing was so reckless and impulsive to assassinate Bailey Ningsu. Yun Luo, this was obviously a good thing for him. At the very least, after this incident, Ji Tianqing would be Cloud Soul Palace's enemy. It would be impossible for him to obtain Miracle Dr. Bailey's medical skills. Ji Tianqing, that idiot, is as stupid as a pig. He is die, he is die. He's, Yun suddenly suddenly, at this moment, he suddenly saw two figures appear on the bluestone road in front of him. It was a young man in a white robe and an ice-blue fox, who were rushing towards them. When Zhu Fifan saw the appearance of the white-robed young man, his face was suddenly full of astonishment, and his eyes were full of doubts. Ji Tianqing. He actually escaped back here. In the blink of an eye, Ji Tianqing and Qian Yu rushed to the front of the crowd and were about to pass by them. Zhu Fifan frowned and had some doubts in his mind. This guy is with a pet. It seems that he is going to the Thousand Cloud Palace. Shouldn't he be running for his life? What is he trying to do? Zhu Fifan vaguely felt that something was wrong. But he did not want to think too much. He waved his hand and ordered without hesitation, "Catch him. Don't let him escape." The 9 guards didn't think too much about it. They just obeyed orders and orders. They immediately drew their swords and sabers and surrounded Ji Tianqing and Qian Yu in a flash. Swish! 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 9 gleaming swords were pointed at Ji Tianqing's neck, chest, and other vital parts. Ji Tianqing was forced to stop in his tracks. He furrowed his brows in confusion. He looked at Zhu Fifan sharply and asked in a deep voice, "Zhu Fifan, what are you trying to do?" Zhu Fifan sneered and said contemptuously, "What am I trying to do? Ji Tianqing, don't play dumb with me. You have committed such a heinous crime. You deserve to die." A hint of astonishment flashed in Ji Tianqing's eyes as he subconsciously asked, "What heinous crime?" "Zhu Fifan, don't slander me." Qian Yu did not speak, but she was annoyed and murmured in her heart, "It's over. I knew something big was going to happen." Sure enough, Zhu Fifan looked at Ji Tianqing contemptuously and said coldly, "Ji Tianqing, you are about to die and you are still pretending? Just now, you broke into the Qianyun Palace and tried to assassinate my aunt. You almost killed her. To think that our Cloud Spirit Palace has treated you so well. You are a beast with a human face. How dare you do such a cruel and vicious thing?" Upon hearing these words, Ji Tianqing's body trembled and his pupils constricted. What? Someone tried to assassinate Madame Yun? It was definitely not me. Someone pretended to be me and tried to assassinate her. Although Ji Tianqing tried his best to explain, Zhu Fifan did not believe him. Ha ha ha. Ji Tianqing, you really won't give up until you see the coffin. You can play dumb. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. After saying that, Zhu Fifan ordered the 9 guards, "What are you waiting for? Catch him." 2 of the guards immediately took out cold iron chains made of 1,000-years-old cold iron, wanting to tie Ji Tianqing up. Ji Tianqing waved his hands and slapped the 2 guards away. Zhu Fifan suddenly shouted angrily, "Ji Tianqing! How dare you hurt people? Since you are so stubborn, I will inform the punishment hall and ask them to take you to the ice prison." Ji Tianqing was stunned. He suddenly realized that it was not the time to quarrel and resist. If he continued to quarrel, it would only make things worse and more chaotic. So, he suppressed the anger in his heart and calmed down. He said in a low voice, "Zhu Fifan, I want to see Madame Yun. I didn't do this. As long as I confront her, the truth will be revealed." Seeing that he stopped resisting, Zhu Fifan sneered, "Good. Since you still refuse to admit your guilt, I will take you to the Qianyun Palace to confront her. Let's see how you will quibble." After saying that, he ordered the guards to escort Ji Tianqing and rushed towards the Thousand Cloud Palace as fast as the wind. After a quarter of an hour, everyone arrived at the Qianyun Palace. They quickly went upstairs and entered Bailey Ningsu's room. At this time, Bailey Ningsu's room was full of people. More than 30 elite guards were guarding outside the room. They were full of killing intent. Chapter 751. The atmosphere in the room was cold, solemn, and somewhat oppressive. Bailey Ningsu was sitting on a rattan chair, silently circulating her energy to dissolve the poison in her body. 2 Yun family elders were working together to help her resist the corrosion of the poison. Everyone's expression was full of anger, and their eyes were full of killing intent. "Aunt, I've already caught Ji Tianqing," Zhu Fifan shouted in a low voice, and brought Ji Tianqing into the room. When Ji Tianqing stepped into the room, everyone turned their heads to look at him in unison. Their eyes were filled with intense hostility and killing intent. As soon as Ji Tianqing entered the room, he quickly saw the situation inside. Several walls collapsed, the windows were broken, and many of the furnishings were shattered. Bailey Ningsu was covered in blood, and she looked a bit embarrassed. The scene was a mess, and there was no doubt that a fierce battle had just happened here. Ji Tianqing's mood was a bit gloomy, and he secretly clenched his fists. But he kept calm, and walked in front of Bailey Ningsu, and cupped his hands in salute. "Junior greets aunt." Bailey Ningsu temporarily stopped circulating her energy, and slowly opened her eyes. She looked at Ji Tianqing indifferently, and a trace of hatred flashed in her eyes. She said in a cold voice, "You don't have the qualifications to call me aunt. I really believed in you, and that's why I was killed by you." Ji Tianqing shook his head and hurriedly explained, "Auntie, please believe me. I didn't do it. Before today, I've been cultivating in Hefeng Garden, and I haven't even stepped out of the door. Just now, Qian Yu saw someone pretending to be me, and rushed to Thousand Cloud Palace, and quickly reported the news to me. When I heard the news, I hurriedly rushed over with Qian Yu, but I didn't expect that I would still be a step too late." Bailey Ningsu looked at him coldly, and didn't move at all. Twisting words and forcing logic. Zhu Fifan coldly snorted, and contemptuously sneered, "Ji Tianqing, in order to shirk responsibility, you even made up such a lie, you're really shameless." Ji Tianqing looked at him sharply, and said in a deep voice, "I'm not lying, this is what Qian Yu saw with his own eyes, he can testify." Qian Yu quickly nodded, and said in a serious tone, "Yes, just half an hour ago, I saw a maid pretending to be old Ji." "Ha ha ha." Zhu Fifan suddenly laughed, and looked at Ji, and asked, "A maid pretending to be you? Which maid in Cloud Spirit Palace looks like a man? Ji Tianqing, can't you at least make up a better lie? Can you please think before you speak?" As he spoke, he said Qian Yu, and Qian Yu said, "You, of course, Qian Yu, Qian Yu, Qian Yu's. Qian Qian, and you, Qian. Ji Tianqing frowned and shouted, "Zhu Fifan. Both of you shut up." Bailey Ningsu saw the two of them bickering and finally spoke up. Ji Tianqing and Zhu Fifan immediately stopped quarreling, and turned to look at her. Bailey Ningsu's cheeks and lips were as pale as paper, and her breath was a little chaotic and weak. She looked at Ji Tianqing indifferently, and said in a low voice, "Ji Tianqing, even if I believe that you are innocent, someone might have pretended to be you and tried to assassinate me. However, no matter how good the disguise is, it can only imitate a person's appearance and voice, but it can't imitate your breath. Everyone's breath is different, and they all have their own characteristics. I am no stranger to your breath, and the person who tried to assassinate me just now was clearly your breath. Ji Tianqing, how do you explain this?" Ji Tianqing was suddenly speechless, and he frowned hard. Hundreds of thoughts flashed through his mind, and he racked his brain to think of an explanation. At the same time, his eyes swept across the messy room, trying to find some clues to analyze the truth. Zhu Fifan saw that he was silent, and sneered, "Ji Tianqing, you have nothing to say, right? You can't argue, right?" Ji Tianqing suddenly thought of something, and suddenly a light flashed through his mind. He looked at Bailey Ningsu with burning eyes, and said seriously, "Auntie, what you just said is wrong. Ordinary disguise is naturally unable to imitate another person's breath. However, you should know about the Murong family. Their inherited secret technique can not only imitate another person's appearance and voice, but also imitate a special breath." This time, without waiting for Zhu Fifan to refute, Bailey Ningsu shook her head and said coldly, "Ji Tianqing, of course I know about the Murong family's secret technique. However, This excuse of yours is too far-fetched. Could it be that someone from the Murong family sneaked into Cloud's Soul Palace and pretended to be you to assassinate me? What do you think Cloud's Soul Palace is? How could someone from the Murong family sneak in? Ji Tianqing was once again speechless, unable to refute. Beilie Ningsu looked at him indifferently, and continued, you just said that you've been cultivating in Hefeng Garden for the past 2 days, and you haven't even stepped out of the door. Then let me ask you, other than your pet, who can testify for you? Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a moment, then quickly said, for the past few days, a maid named Xiao Yi has been serving me in Hefeng Garden. She can testify for me. In fact, Xiao Yi was Yun Yao's trusted maid, and she was purposely arranged to serve Ji Tianqing in Hefeng Garden. Beilie Ningsu looked at a guard commander, and ordered, go to Hefeng Garden and bring the maid Xiao Yi here. Understood. The guard commander cupped his fists and accepted the order, then quickly left the room and rushed to Hefeng Garden. The room fell into silence, and everyone waited patiently. Soon, a quarter of an hour passed. The guard commander came back with a delicate and pretty maid. It was Xiao Yi. Everyone's eyes suddenly gathered on her, revealing an expectant look. Xiao Yi's figure was slightly thin, and her personality was simple and introverted. She had never seen such a big scene, and after being brought into the room, she timidly lowered her head, feeling very nervous. Servant Xiao Yi greets mistress. Xiao Yi trembled as she walked in front of Beilie Ningsu, and respectfully bowed. Beilie Ningsu looked at her indifferently, and asked in a dignified tone, Xiao Yi, I ask you, for the past 2 days, has Ji Tianqing been cultivating in Hefeng Garden? Xiao Yi didn't dare to speak, and only nodded, yes. Hearing her answer honestly, Ji Tianqing secretly let out a sigh of relief. Zhu Fifan frowned, and his expression was somewhat gloomy. Beilie Ningsu continued to ask Xiao Yi, an hour ago, was Ji Tianqing still cultivating in his room? Did he leave Hefeng Garden? This. Xiao Yi suddenly hesitated, and didn't dare to speak. Speak. If you dare lie to me, I won't forgive you. Beilie Ningsu's voice was ice-cold as she shouted. Chapter 752. Xiao Yi's reply caused everyone's expression to change. Beilie Ningsu expressionlessly looked at her and continued to ask, you were ordered to serve Ji Tianqing in Hefeng Garden, but you weren't there. Where did you go? Xiao Yi fearfully lowered her head, her voice carrying a sobbing tone. This servant followed eldest Mrs. orders and went to the kitchen to bring young Master Ji some spiritual porridge. For the past 2 days, after nightfall, this servant would go to the kitchen and leave for an hour. When this servant brought the spiritual porridge back to Hefeng Garden, young Master Ji was no longer in his room. Hearing her reply, Ji Tianqing's expression immediately changed, his heart cursing. But he also knew that what Xiao Yi said was the truth. Beilie Ningsu glanced at Ji Tianqing, then continued to ask Xiao Yi, then do you know when Ji Tianqing left Hefeng Garden? Mistress, this servant also doesn't know. Xiao Yi didn't dare to hide anything and could only answer truthfully. Beilie Ningsu took a deep breath, suppressing the anger in her heart. Expressionlessly, she said, you may withdraw. Yes. Xiao Yi replied. She hurriedly bowed and left the room. After Xiao Yi left, Beilie Ningsu looked at Ji Tianqing, her voice cold as ice. Ji Tianqing, Xiao Yi can't prove your innocence. What else do you have to say? Ji Tianqing's expression was somewhat unsightly, but he could only speak with sincerity. Aunt, I know you don't believe me, but this is indeed a coincidence. This incident happened so suddenly. Please give me some time. I will definitely find out the truth and prove my innocence. Beilie Ningsu shook her head, expressionlessly saying, no need to say anything more. As for the truth of the matter, I will be able to discern it. After saying that, she looked at the 2 elders beside her and ordered in a deep voice, Elders, take Ji Tianqing away and lock him up in the ice prison. Guard him strictly. After I report this matter to the family head, we will convict him. Aunt. Ji Tianqing immediately revealed an anxious expression, still wanting to explain. However, Beilie Ningsu had already closed her eyes, clearly unwilling to listen to him. The two elders no longer hesitated, their faces cold as ice as they walked to Ji Tianqing's side. They stretched out their steel-like hands and grabbed his arms. The two of them grabbed his arms, one on the left and one on the right, and walked out of Bailey Ningsu's room. The two elders of the Yun clan were experts, both at the 7th or 8th level of Sky Origin stage. If Ji Tianqing struggled with all his might, there was a great chance that he would be able to break free and escape from the two elders. But if he really did that, there would be another conflict, and the conflict between him and Cloud's Spirit Palace would become even more intense. It would only make this matter harder to explain clearly. Thus, he could only keep his calm and let the two elders to hold him. Not long after, the two elders escorted him out of the Thousand Cloud Palace, heading towards the ice prison deep underground. Qian Yu was not captured, but it was worried about Ji Tianqing's safety, so it followed Ji Tianqing all the way, unwilling to leave. After a while, Ji Tianqing was about to be taken to the underground ice prison. Seeing Qian Yu still following him, he said to it with a serious face, "Qian Yu, you can't follow me to the ice prison. Go back now and look for Yao Yao immediately. Tell her about this matter clearly. Madame Yun won't believe me, only Yao Yao will. Maybe she can help me find out the truth. This is my only chance to clear my name and prove my innocence." Qian Yu understood the urgency of the situation, so it quickly stopped and nodded. It said seriously, "Old Ji, don't worry. I will go find Yun Yao now. Don't worry, we will find a way to save you and prove your innocence." After that, Qian Yu quickly turned around and left. Ji Tianqing was escorted by two elders. They passed through the dimly lit tunnel and walked towards the depths of the underground. Not long after, he was taken to the ice prison. The ice prison was a prison built by the Yun family in the mountains. It was protected by a powerful array and was guarded by many elite guards. The entire prison was made of ice. The temperature was so low that even the air was frozen. If an Origin Core stage martial artist was imprisoned here, they would have to endure the corrosion of the extremely cold air at all times, and would definitely experience a pain worse than death. Although Sky Origin stage cultivators could withstand the extreme cold, they would still find it unbearable. Both their minds and bodies would be tortured. After all, the ice prison was dark, cold, and silent. It made people feel sad and lonely. Ji Tianqing was locked in a prison cell with a radius of 5 meters. The entire prison cell was made of ice bricks and was sealed by an invisible array. There was nothing in the prison cell. The walls were white and there was no other color. After the door of the prison cell was closed and the two elders left, the prison cell fell into silence. Ji Tianqing stood alone in the prison cell. He thought about what had happened and tried to find some clues. He still couldn't figure out who wanted to frame him. Why did they do it? What was their goal? Inside the Thousand Cloud Palace, the lights were bright and the atmosphere was tense. Bailey Ningsu and the others left the room and entered the main hall. The guards and maids were standing guard outside the main hall. There were only a few people in the main hall. Bailey Ningsu sat on a jade lotus platform. Her face was pale and her eyes were closed. She was recuperating from her injuries. Her father, Divine Dr. Bailey, had heard the news and rushed over. He was using a soul secret technique to help her expel the poison and treat her injuries. Even the head of the family, Yun Zhongqi, was alarmed. He stood beside Bailey Ningsu and looked at her with concern. His face was full of worry. He already knew what had happened. His mood was very complicated and heavy. At this moment, a graceful figure in a long white dress stepped through the door like a gust of wind and entered the hall. It was Yun Yao. She had just learned that her mother had been assassinated and rushed over as fast as she could. Swoosh! Yun Yao rushed into the main hall. When she saw Bailey Ningsu covered in blood and in a miserable state, her face was full of worry. She saw that her grandfather was treating her mother. She didn't dare to disturb him. She looked at her father, Yun Zhongqi, and asked in a low voice, "Father, how are my mother's injuries? Is it serious?" Sigh. Yun Zhongqi sighed and said in a low voice, "Your mother's injuries are very serious. She was almost stabbed in the heart and died on the spot. Moreover, the assassin's dagger was dipped in poison. It has already entered her heart." Yun Zhongqi saw that Yun Yao's expression changed drastically. He was extremely worried. He quickly comforted her, "Yao Yao, don't worry. Your grandfather is here. Your mother will be fine." Only then did Yun Yao feel a little relieved. She asked in a gloomy tone, "Father, have you caught the assassin? Who is so vicious and savage that they dared to assassinate my mother in Cloud Spirit Palace?" Yun Zhongqi glanced at her and said with a strange expression, "The assassin is Ji Tianqing." Chapter 753. Yun Yao was originally filled with anger and worry when her mother was assassinated in the Thousand Cloud Palace. However, when she heard her father's words, she felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Her body froze on the spot. She couldn't believe that the assassin was Ji Tianqing. If her father hadn't said those words, she would have thought that she had misheard. How is this possible? After regaining her senses, Yun Yao shook her head subconsciously and said firmly, "Father, I don't believe that Tianqing would do such a thing. How could he assassinate my mother? There must be a problem. There must be some misunderstanding." Yun Yao was agitated and her reaction was a little intense. She couldn't accept this answer at all. Yun Zhongqi had expected her reaction. He said with a serious face, "Yao Yao, I know that you don't believe that Ji Tianqing did it. In fact, I had the same thought as you when I first found out about this. However, how could your mother make up a lie? Your cousin and the guards all saw Ji Tianqing assassinate your mother with their own eyes. Your mother even gave Ji Tianqing a chance to prove his innocence. However, he couldn't produce any evidence to shirk his responsibility. The facts are all there. The evidence is irrefutable. Yao Yao, you can only accept this fact." Yun Yao's mood became more and more gloomy. Her thoughts were a little chaotic and tears welled up in her eyes. She still couldn't believe this result. She shook her head with all her might and said, "No. I still can't believe that Tianqing is not that kind of person." "Yao Yao." Yun Zhongqi shouted sternly and said coldly, "It has already happened. Your mother almost lost her life. Are you still going to be stubborn? You may know a person for a long time, but you can't judge his heart. You think you know Ji Tianqing very well, but who can really see through someone's heart?" Yun Yao couldn't refute. She could only shake her head and deny it. Tears flowed from her eyes. She couldn't imagine that in just a few hours without seeing Ji Tianqing, something like this would happen and cause such a big mess. On one side was her biological mother, and on the other was the person she loved, but they suddenly became life and death enemies. She was sandwiched between the two of them and didn't know what to do. Yun Zhongqi also understood that she was the one with the most chaotic and sorrowful emotions right now, so he didn't say anything else. He sighed in his heart and said calmly, "All right, Yao Yao, let father handle this matter. Go back to your room and rest." Yun Yao quickly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and calmed down. She looked up at Yun Zhongqi and asked in a low voice, "Father, have you caught Tianqing? Where is he now?" Yun Zhongqi was silent for a moment before he nodded and said, "He's locked in the ice prison. You can go and see him. Why don't you ask him yourself why he was so cruel and did such a vicious thing to your mother? However, Yao Yao, don't even think about secretly letting him go. Father has already sent some experts to guard the ice prison. Without father's orders, he won't be able to leave the ice prison." Yun Zhongqi knew Yun Yao's personality very well. He guessed that she might take the opportunity to let Ji Tianqing go, so he reminded her. Yun Yao nodded silently. She bowed and bid farewell to Yun Zhongqi before she turned and left the main hall. She walked out of the Thousand Cloud Palace expressionlessly and rushed to the ice prison with a sorrowful expression. Although she had calmed down, her thoughts were still a little messy and her emotions were very complicated. Her subconscious told her that this was definitely not Ji Tianqing's doing. There must be something else behind it. However, she was also a little afraid. She was afraid that this was the truth and that Ji Tianqing was the assassin. After all, her mother had always been prejudiced against Ji Tianqing and was unwilling to accept him. What if Ji Tianqing held a grudge against her and tried to assassinate her out of anger? Yunyao didn't dare to think about it anymore. Her heart was in a mess and she didn't know how to face it. Just as she passed by a palace and reached the corner of the Bluestone Road, she suddenly heard a call from the dark side of the road. Yunyao. Wait a minute. Yunyao immediately stopped and turned to look at the source of the voice. She saw an ice-blue ice fox hiding in the dark. She naturally recognized it. It was Ji Tianqing's pet, Qianyu. Qianyu looked at her with a hopeful face. It waved its little paws and shouted in a low voice, Yunyao, come here quickly. Old Ji asked me to pass you a message. Yunyao quickly walked in front of Qianyu and asked expectantly, Qianyu, what message did Tianqing ask you to pass me? Qianyu looked around and saw that there was no one around. It lowered its voice and said, Yunyao, tonight's incident was a conspiracy. Someone deliberately framed old Ji. I saw a maid pretending to be old Ji and rushing to the Qianyun palace with my own eyes. When Yunyao heard this, the haze that shrouded her heart immediately dissipated, and the worries in her heart were immediately resolved. Sure enough. I knew that Tianqing was not that kind of person. She showed a look of surprise and asked quickly, Qianyu, tell me quickly, what's going on? Qianyu quickly explained the matter in detail, and after he finished, he said with a somewhat depressed tone, although this matter is inconceivable, but it is absolutely true. They don't want to believe me. Yunyao, you should believe me, right? It's a pity that old Ji was caught and put in the ice prison. I can't find the guy who pretended to be old Ji. Otherwise, the truth would definitely be revealed. Yunyao understood the whole story and immediately calmed down. She quickly nodded and said, Qianyu, of course I believe you. And I have always believed that Tianqing would not assassinate my mother. Qianyu heaved a sigh of relief and said in a serious tone, Old Ji said that even if the world doesn't believe him, as long as you still believe him, he will be satisfied. He was willing to be caught and put in the ice prison because he didn't want things to get out of hand and completely fall out with the Cloud Spirit Palace. He is waiting for you in the ice prison. Only you can help him find out the truth and prove his innocence. Okay, let's go to the ice prison to visit him first. Then, we will think of a way. After that, Yunyao quickly brought Qianyu to the ice prison. Soon, Yunyao and Qianyu went through the underground tunnel and entered the ice prison's entrance. There was a giant ice door that was 100 meters tall at the entrance. It was tightly shut and there were 4 powerhouses of the ethereal origin stage standing guard on both sides of the door. Seeing this, Yunyao knew that her father did not lie to her. If she wanted to let Ji Tianqing escape from the ice prison, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. She told the guards the purpose of her visit. The guards opened the door and allowed her and Qianyu to enter. After a while, she entered the depths of the ice prison and saw Ji Tianqing outside the door of a cell. Ji Tianqing was sitting cross-legged in the cell. His eyes were closed and he was cultivating. His expression was calm and indifferent. Yunyao was relieved to see that he was safe and sound. Tianqing, I am here. Yunyao looked at Ji Tianqing through the cell's window and said with concern. Chapter 754. Yao Yao, you're here. Ji Tianqing walked to the door and greeted Yunyao through the window of the ice crystal cell door. Yao Yao, I didn't do this. Yunyao was so close to him, but they were separated by the ice crystal cell door. She was in a very bitter mood. She stared at Ji Tianqing and interrupted him, Tianqing, don't say any more. I believe you. I always have. Ji Tianqing looked at her silently with a gentle smile on his face. Even though the prison was bone-chillingly cold, his heart was filled with warmth. The two of them were connected, so he could naturally feel that Yunyao trusted him unconditionally. When her mother was assassinated and almost lost her life, Yunyao still believed in him unconditionally. This was the most commendable thing about him. What more could a man ask for when he could have such a confidant in his life? The two of them stared at each other, their eyes burning with passion. Qian Yu was silent for a long time. Finally, she couldn't help but say, ahem. Old Ji, Yun Yao, can we talk about business first and find a way to solve this problem? After old Ji has cleared his name and proved his innocence, you two can do whatever you want. It won't be a problem for you to do it for a night. Ji Tianqing glared at Qian Yu, and Qian Yu quickly shut up. Yun Yao said seriously, Tianqing, although I believe that you didn't do it, we can't provide any evidence. My parents also refuse to believe you. Do you have any evidence or clues? Ji Tianqing shook his head and said, I don't have any evidence for the time being, but I just thought about it carefully. There are many suspicious points in this matter. As long as we analyze it calmly, it won't be difficult to find out the truth. Yun Yao immediately showed an expectant look and nodded, okay. Ji Tianqing frowned and thought. Then, he said in a low voice, before tonight's incident, Qian Yu saw a maid pretending to be me and rushing to the Thousand Cloud Palace. This meant that the murderer was a young woman. The murderer was able to smoothly enter the Thousand Cloud Palace to commit murder without arousing anyone's suspicions. Not even your mother was alerted. This meant that the culprit was very familiar with the situation in Cloud's Spirit Palace, especially the Thousand Cloud Palace. Moreover, your mother is a Sky Origin stage cultivator. How could the murderer injure your mother and escape in front of so many people? It proves that the killer is at least at the 6th level of Sky Origin stage. Yun Yao listened attentively to Ji Tianqing's analysis and suddenly felt enlightened. She quickly nodded in agreement. That's right. Tianqing, you are right. The murderer is a young lady who is at the 6th level of Sky Origin stage. She is quite familiar with the Cloud Soul Palace. If we investigate according to these requirements, we can greatly reduce the scope of suspicion, and we will soon find out the truth. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and continued in a serious tone, in addition, the murderer can imitate my appearance, voice, and aura. This is also very strange. Only the secret martial art of the Murong clan can imitate someone else's aura. So, the murderer must be related to the Murong clan. He paused for a while and then continued, the murderer pretended to be me and tried to frame me. She wanted me to become the enemy of the Cloud Soul Palace and completely break off our relationship. Who would hate me so much and want to destroy the relationship between the Cloud Soul Palace and me? Only the Duanmu clan and the Murong clan. Yun Yao nodded in agreement. She said, that's right. Tianqing, with your analysis, we are getting closer to the truth. The murderer who tried to assassinate my mother must have been ordered by the Murong clan or the Duanmu clan. But who could it be? There are many young ladies in the Cloud Soul Palace, and many of them are at the Sky Origin stage. Ji Tianqing kept silent and thought for a while. Suddenly, he had an idea. Yao Yao, I suddenly thought of someone who fits all these requirements. He is very suspicious. Who? Yun Yao immediately raised her head and looked at him. Her eyes were full of expectation and doubt. Ji Tianqing said with a serious face, your mother's personal maid, Yun Luo. Yun Luo? How could it be her? Yun Yao's face was full of shock. She couldn't believe it. Tianqing, although Yun Luo basically meets the requirements you've mentioned, she's my mother's trusted bodyguard. She has been in the Cloud Soul Palace for more than 10 years. She has always been loyal to the Yun clan. She even blocked a sword for my mother and almost lost her life. How could she be ordered by the Murong clan and the Duanmu clan to pretend to be you and assassinate my mother? Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a while. Then, he calmly said, Yao Yao, I know you can't believe it. But this is only my speculation. If we want to find the truth, we must make bold guesses and investigate carefully. We can't miss any suspicious person. The reason why I suspect Yun Luo is because she is very suspicious. Yun Luo is your mother's personal guard. But when the murderer tried to assassinate your mother, why wasn't she there to protect her? When I rushed to your mother's room, she wasn't there. Where did she go during this time? Hearing this, Yun Yao fell silent. She frowned and thought for a while. Then, she replied, I just went to the Thousand Cloud Palace and asked my father. He told me everything. Before the incident happened, Yun Luo was in the room with my mother. My mother suddenly remembered something and wanted to talk to you in private. So, she sent Yun Luo to Hefeng Garden to find you. Who knew that not long after Yun Luo left, the murderer would pretend to be you and enter my mother's room to assassinate her? Hearing this, Ji Tianqing suddenly frowned, and a glint flashed in his eyes. Yao Yao, you just said, your mother sent Yun Luo to Hefeng Garden to inform me? But Yun Luo never came to Hefeng Garden. It was Qian Yu who came back to inform me. Then, I went to Thousand Cloud Palace with her. Before we even arrived at Thousand Cloud Palace, the incident had already happened. At this point, Ji Tianqing's eyes flashed with a cold light. He said coldly, "Humph. It seems that Yun Luo is too suspicious. The murderer is most likely her." Yun Yao instinctively didn't want to believe that Yun Luo was the murderer. After all, Yun Luo had served Bailey Ningsu in Cloud Spirit Palace for more than 10 years. She had always been loyal and devoted. She didn't look like a spy from the Duanmu or Murong family. However, Ji Tianqing's analysis of all the clues pointed to Yun Luo. She had no choice but to accept reality. With a serious expression, she muttered, could the murderer really be her? Why would she do that? When did she become a spy for the Murong and Duanmu families? Yao Yao, now is not the time to think about this. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said with a gloomy expression, the most important thing now is to investigate Yun Luo's crimes as soon as possible and let the truth come to light. Perhaps, we can think of a way to make Yun Luo reveal her true identity and purpose. Yun Yao understood what he meant and immediately nodded in agreement. Chapter 755. Ji Tianqing furrowed his brows and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, he thought of an idea and his eyes flashed with a bright light. Yao Yao, I have an idea. Yun Yao was deep in thought when she was awakened by his voice. She immediately raised her head and looked at him with an expectant gaze. Tianqing, what idea have you come up with? Ji Tianqing revealed a confident smile. Yao Yao, I have a way to find the real culprit and make her reveal her true identity. However, I'll need your father's help. Yao Yao, hurry and find your father. I want to discuss this with him face to face. All right, I'll go now. Yun Yao hurriedly nodded in agreement and turned to leave the ice prison. Inside the Thousand Cloud Palace. Inside a heavily guarded secret room, two people were conversing in low voices. These two people were Yun Zhongqi and Bailey Ningsu. Bailey Ningsu's injuries, after being treated by Divine Dr. Bailey, were no longer a problem. The poison in her body had been neutralized, but her body was still weak. She would be fully recovered after 2 or 3 months of recuperation. She sat on a jade throne with a pale face as she silently pondered. Yun Zhongqi stood beside her with his hands behind his back. He stared at the wall with a burning gaze. After a moment of silence, Yun Zhongqi suddenly asked, Madam, do you really think that the culprit is Ji Tianqing? Bailey Ningsu shook her head. It shouldn't be him. It's most likely that someone impersonated him and tried to assassinate me. Although the assassin said that he tried to assassinate me because I stopped him from being with Yao Yao, that's a bit far-fetched. It's not enough for him to try and kill me, especially at a time like this. Also, I don't think Ji Tianqing is the type of person who's two-faced and vicious. Yun Zhongqi nodded and said with a solemn expression, that's right, I think so too. Ji Tianqing wouldn't do something like this, especially in such a clumsy manner. The culprit did this to destroy our relationship with Ji Tianqing and turn him against Cloud Soul Palace. I'm afraid that only the Duanmu family and the Murong family would be so eager to deal with us. Bailey Ningsu frowned, her face filled with worry as she continued, the reason why I locked him in the ice prison was to find out the truth and find out who the real culprit is. There is actually a spy in our Yun family, and it is very likely that there is more than one. I want to take this opportunity to find the spy and clean up Cloud Spirit Palace. If we don't find out who the spy is, there will be even more trouble in the future. Yun Zhongqi nodded in agreement and asked in a deep voice, "It seems like Madam already has a countermeasure." Bailey Ningsu said calmly, "I've already sent people from the Hidden Cloud Pavilion to seal off Cloud Soul Palace and investigate all suspicious people. Also, I was waiting for Ji Tianqing's reaction. I wanted to see if he could come up with a solution." Although he was a world-renowned martial arts genius, he was still too young and still had a long way to go. If you want to become a true peerless expert, talent alone isn't enough. You also need to have enough wisdom and methods. Yun Zhongqi silently listened and didn't interrupt, but he agreed with her thoughts. Bailey Ningsu paused for a moment before continuing, "Ji Tianqing and the Duanmu family are already irreconcilable. It is inevitable that the Duanmu family will seek revenge and plot against him. This matter is just the beginning. The Duanmu family will definitely come up with even more schemes and plots. If Ji Tianqing can't solve these problems and plots, how can he fight against the Duanmu family? If he can't even protect himself, how can he protect Yao Yao? How can I be at ease in entrusting Yao Yao to him?" Yun Zhongqi nodded and said in a heavy voice, "Of course I understand the pitiful hearts of parents. Madam, you've always been thinking for Yao Yao. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made things difficult for Ji Tianqing. From Ji Tianqing's previous actions, I believe that he will quickly find a way to resolve this crisis." Bailey Ningsu didn't reply and only nodded silently. At that moment, a guard's voice came from outside the secret room. "Reporting to family head, eldest miss requests an audience." Yun Zhongqi raised his brows and said in a dignified voice, "Let eldest miss in." With that said, he waved his hand and released a ray of light, opening the secret room's stone door. Yun Yao immediately walked into the secret room and bowed to Yun Zhongqi and Bailey Ningsu. "Father, I just went to the ice prison to see Tianqing." "Father, mother, you must believe in Tianqing. He's been wrongly accused. Someone is deliberately trying to frame him." Yun Zhongqi nodded slightly and said with a calm expression, "Yao Yao, apart from this, what else did Ji Tianqing say?" Yun Yao hurriedly said, "Father, Tianqing wants to see you. He wants to discuss something with you. He has a way to find the real culprit and reveal the truth." Hearing her words, Yun Zhongqi and Bailey Ningsu looked at each other, revealing a look of understanding. Yun Zhongqi stroked his beard and nodded. "All right, I'll go to the ice prison to see him now." With that said, he calmly left the secret room and rushed to the underground ice prison. Half an hour later, he entered the depths of the underground prison and met with Ji Tianqing in the ice prison. One of them stood in the prison cell while the other stood at the door. They looked at each other through the ice crystal door. Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and bowed to Yun Zhongqi. He said with concern, "Greetings, Uncle Yun. How are Auntie's injuries?" Yun Zhongqi nodded slightly and said with his spiritual sense, "Your auntie's injuries are no longer serious. You don't need to worry. Let's talk business. Do you have a way to find the real culprit?" In order to keep it a secret, Ji Tianqing also said with his spiritual sense. He said with a serious tone, "The culprit pretended to be me and tried to frame me. He wanted to sever ties with Cloud Soul Palace and turn us against each other. Not long ago, the Duanmu Huang tried to kill me outside Zhongzhou City. I sent a message to Uncle and you personally came to save me. The Duanmu Huang recognized you and knew about our relationship. Therefore, the culprit was most likely ordered by the Duanmu Huang. The Duanmu family is the most suspicious. However, the culprit not only pretended to be me, but also imitated my aura. This means that the Murong family is also involved. If the Duanmu family and the Murong family work together to deal with us, their goal is not only to deal with me, but also the Yun family. The fact that the culprit tried to assassinate Auntie means that their goal is the Yun family as well." Yun Zhongqi silently listened to him and nodded his head in agreement. "Tianqing, since you've analyzed all these clues, do you have a way to deal with this?" Ji Tianqing nodded with a serious expression. He said with a playful tone, "My way is to beat them at their own game and lure them out." "Beat them at their own game?" Yun Zhongqi raised his eyebrows and revealed a look of interest. Chapter 756. The Thousand Cloud Palace was brightly lit and filled with people. Bailey Ningsu was sitting in the main hall on the first floor, resting on a large chair with her eyes closed. Yun Luo, who was dressed as a maid, stood behind her with an expressionless face and a respectful posture. Yun Luo had regained her usual cold and stern temperament, without any abnormalities. In addition, there were 6 guards and a few maids standing respectfully to the side. The main hall was quiet, with only the occasional clanking sound from the second floor breaking the silence of the night. The Yun family's craftsmen were repairing the walls and windows, redecorating Bailey Ningsu's room. At this moment, in the night sky not far away, an earth-shattering explosion suddenly rang out. Following that, a series of loud and muffled bangs could be heard. Along with the loud bangs, there was a dazzling 5-colored light that rushed into the sky, illuminating the dark night. There was also a violent true essence fluctuation coming from the depths of the earth. Such a huge commotion immediately alarmed the entire Cloud Spirit Palace, causing countless people to wake up in shock. Bailey Ningsu and the others in the Thousand Cloud Palace were also awakened, their faces full of confusion. Bailey Ningsu opened her eyes and frowned. She looked at the night sky in the east and asked in a deep voice, "What's that sound? What's going on?" Many of the maids and guards in the hall were bewildered. They did not understand what was going on. Only Yun Luo frowned and thought for a moment. She guessed something and quickly replied, reporting to Madam, "This commotion seems to be coming from the underground ice prison. There should be experts fighting." Just as she finished speaking, in the night sky not far away, there was another series of loud rumbles. Several houses were shattered by the violent shockwaves, turning into ruins and sending dust into the air. Chaotic and panicked screams immediately rang out, and the shouts and battle cries of many guards spread through the night sky. Hearing the ruckus, Bailey Ningsu's face turned serious, and she ordered the guards, "What are you still standing around for? Quickly go and see what's going on." "Yes, sir." The guards cupped their hands in salute and immediately turned to leave. A strange look flashed across Yun Luo's eyes. She hurriedly took a step forward and took the initiative to request, "Madam, let this servant go. If there really is an unforeseen event, this servant can also help." Bailey Ningsu nodded in agreement without hesitation. "That's good too. Go on then." Yun Luo quickly ran out of the lobby and rushed towards the underground ice prison as fast as lightning. Shwa! She rushed out of Thousand Cloud Palace, turned into a stream of light and flew into the night sky, flying towards the east. At this moment, she could clearly see that the loud noise and dazzling 5-colored spiritual light were indeed coming from the underground ice prison. Quite a few buildings near the ice prison had already collapsed. Hundreds of Yun family disciples and servants were fleeing in panic. There were also more than a dozen guards holding swords and sabers that flashed with cold light. They were shouting and shouting as they scattered in all directions, searching for something in Cloud Spirit Palace. The entire Cloud Spirit Palace was in a state of panic. Everyone was in a state of panic. Shouts of killing could be heard everywhere. Seeing this scene, Yun Luo's heart was filled with anticipation. She quickly rushed to the entrance of the ice prison. She saw that the ground at the entrance of the ice prison had been shattered, leaving behind many deep holes. Yun Luo quickly passed through the underground passage and quickly entered the ice prison. The ice crystal door of the ice prison had already been opened. There was a huge crack on the door. The ground and the surrounding walls were filled with traces of fighting. There were also many dark red bloodstains. There were even several bloody corpses lying on the ground. They were all guards who guarded the ice prison. When Yun Luo rushed to the depths of the ice prison, she saw several guard commanders and a Yun family elder surrounding a thin and dignified middle-aged man. That was the patriarch, Yun Zhongqi. He leaned against the corner of the wall with a pale face. His hands were clutching his chest. The clothes on his chest were dyed red with blood. There was a hideous wound that was constantly bleeding. His injuries were very serious. His aura was chaotic and manic. He was roaring in anger. Damn it! This bastard is actually so vicious. Seeing this, Yun Luo's eyes flashed with doubt. She quickly went over. The elders of the Yun family and the commanders of the guards all looked at Yun Zhongqi with concern and asked about his injuries. Patriarch, how did you get injured? Who did this? Patriarch, we will send you back to treat your injuries. You must hold on. Nothing must happen to you. Yun Luo was very confused. Yun Zhongqi was a powerful soul-tempering stage cultivator. Who could injure him so severely? At this time, Yun Zhongqi stood up with the help of 2 guard commanders. His face was pale as he ordered, Second Elder. Pass down my order immediately. Seal Cloud Spirit Palace and close the door. No matter what, we must find that bastard. We must not let him escape from Cloud Spirit Palace. The second elder hurriedly nodded and accepted the order. Then, he turned around and left with an ice-cold complexion. He quickly issued the order. Soon after, a few guards escorted Yun Zhongqi out of the ice prison. The situation was urgent, so no one cared about Yun Luo. After all, she was only a servant. Her status was not high. Yun Luo looked around and saw that the ice prison was in a mess. A fierce battle had indeed occurred here, so he turned around and left. She quickly found a guard commander and asked, "What's going on? Why is the patriarch injured?" The guard commander shouted angrily, "It's that bastard Ji Tianqing. The patriarch just gave the order to execute him. He attacked the patriarch when he was unprepared and severely injured the patriarch. We tried to kill him, but he killed quite a few of our guards, allowing him to escape from the ice prison. However, he was also injured by the patriarch. Even if he escaped from the ice prison, he can't escape from Cloud Spirit Palace. He must be hiding." After the guard commander finished speaking, he hurriedly left the ice prison and led a team of guards to search Cloud Spirit Palace. Ji Tianqing can't defend himself. Not only did he commit the crime of assassinating the madam, he also injured the patriarch and escaped. This time, he is completely finished. He will never be able to clear his name. Yun Luo sneered in her heart and quickly left the ice prison. After a while, she returned to the main hall of Thousand Cloud Palace and reported the matter to Bailey Ningsu. After hearing the report, Bailey Ningsu was so angry that her face turned pale. Her eyes were filled with a cold light. Bastard! Ji Tianqing, this bastard, he is crazy. Cloud Spirit Palace and he cannot exist together. We must cut him into pieces. Bailey Ningsu angrily cursed and quickly asked Yun Luo, "How is the patriarch's injury? Is his life in danger?" Chapter 757. For the rest of the night, Cloud Spirit Palace was in chaos. Almost all the guards in the palace were out, looking for Ji Tianqing's whereabouts. The gates of Cloud Spirit Palace were closed, and all the exits were guarded by strong cultivators. With such tight security, not even a fly could fly out of Cloud Spirit Palace. It was almost impossible for Ji Tianqing to escape from Cloud Spirit Palace. Everyone in Cloud Spirit Palace was in a state of panic. Countless disciples and servants of the Yun family knew that Ji Tianqing had tried to assassinate the mistress and injured the patriarch. In just one night, Ji Tianqing went from being the crown prince of the Yun family and the future son-in-law of the Yun family to being Cloud Spirit Palace's mortal enemy. Not only was the Yun family dumbfounded by such a shocking turn of events, even the guests who had arrived at Cloud Spirit Palace ahead of time were shocked beyond words. Yun Luo had been secretly observing the situation, paying attention to the situation in Cloud Spirit Palace and the movements of the guards. At first, she had some doubts. She could not believe that Ji Tianqing had really injured Yun Zhongqi and completely cut ties with the Yun family. However, after half a night of observation, she was completely sure of this matter and no longer had any doubts. Therefore, she used a secret communication technique that she had not used for many years and sent the news out of Cloud Spirit Palace. At dawn, the sky was just starting to turn white. In Autumn Wind City, Thousands of miles away from Cloud Spirit Palace, a house in the south of the city was still sleeping peacefully in the morning fog. In a secret room in the depths of the house, Duanmu Huang was sitting on a large chair with his eyes closed, quietly waiting for something. At this moment, Xing Jian, the head of the Soul Husbandry sect, pushed open the stone door of the secret room and quickly walked in. Patriarch, Luo sent a message. Xing Jian bowed respectfully and held a palm-sized jade spiritual slip in front of Duanmu Huang. This jade spiritual slip was a special Dharma artifact used to transmit important messages. It could be sent thousands of miles away in half an hour. This item was called a communication jade slip. It was priceless and very precious. In the central continent, only the imperial courts and the top aristocratic families had the qualifications and financial resources to use communication jade slips to transmit messages. Duanmu Huang, who was resting with his eyes closed, immediately opened his eyes when he heard Xing Jian's words. His eyes were filled with anticipation. "You've come just in time. I've been waiting for a long time." Duanmu Huang smiled and quickly reached out to receive the communication jade slip. He used his spiritual energy to cast a secret technique and read the message in the jade slip. A moment later, he finished reading Yun Luo's message and immediately revealed an excited expression. Ji Tianqing's crime has been confirmed, and he won't be able to clear his name even if he jumps into the East Sea. Cloud Spirit Palace had fallen into chaos, and Yun Zhongqi had been severely injured. This was great. That's great. My plan has finally succeeded. Ha ha ha. Duanmu Huang laughed excitedly. His tone was full of pride. Xing Jian also revealed a trace of a smile and hurriedly cupped his hands and bowed. "Congratulations, Patriarch, congratulations, Patriarch. May I ask what we should do next, Patriarch?" Duanmu Huang's emotions calmed down. He held the communication jade slip in his hand and said in a cold voice, "What else can we do? Of course, we'll take advantage of his weakness and kill him. We'll completely destroy the Yun family. I've already placed a spy in Cloud Spirit Palace and prepared everything. I'll now send a message to Luo and have her meet with the spy. The spy will then give her the Soul Reaping Bell." Soul Reaping Bell? Xing Jian's pupils constricted, and a shocked expression appeared on his face. "Patriarch, are you talking about the precious treasure of the Yin Hun clan that we took 12 years ago when we destroyed them?" Duanmu Huang nodded with a cold smile on his face. "That's right. The Soul Reaping Bell is a magic treasure that specializes in restraining spiritual energy. It's very powerful and very insidious. With Luo's status, she should be able to smoothly approach Yun Zhongqi." Yun Zhongqi was severely injured, and his strength had greatly decreased. He was at his weakest. As long as Luo catches him off guard, she can use the power of the Soul Reaping Bell to kill Yun Zhongqi on the spot. Even if she can't kill Yun Zhongqi, she can still severely injure Yun Zhongqi's spiritual energy and cause his strength to greatly decrease. Once the spiritual energy is severely injured, it will take hundreds of years for it to recover. At that time, won't Yun Zhongqi be at my mercy? Ha ha ha. After hearing Duanmu Huang's words, Xing Jian revealed a look of anticipation and smirked. Inside Cloud Spirit Palace. In the southeast corner, there was a beautiful garden. The trees in the garden were lush, and the fragrance was pleasant. It was early in the morning, and the garden was silent. No one was walking around. Cloud Spirit Palace had been in chaos last night, and the atmosphere was still oppressive and somber. Who would be in the mood to enjoy the scenery in the garden? However, on a small path in the depths of the garden, there was a middle-aged servant in gray linen clothes sweeping the fallen leaves with a broom. The middle-aged servant bent over and swept the floor. His movements were calm and steady, neither fast nor slow. His seemingly ordinary, turbid eyes would occasionally flash with a wisp of light. At this moment, a tall and thin servant girl appeared on the small path. She carried a box of food in her hand and walked calmly through the small path. She was about to pass through the garden and rush to the kitchen. This person was Yun Luo. She expressionlessly walked towards the middle-aged servant. She didn't look at the servant, nor did she talk to him. However, when she passed by the middle-aged servant, the servant seemed to casually wave the broom, but his wide sleeve swept across her sleeve. Silently, 2 items fell into Yun Luo's hands. A communication jade slip made of white jade, and a black bell the size of a wine cup. This simple black bell exuded a mysterious and cold aura. It was the magic treasure, Soul Reaping Bell. Yun Luo flipped her hand and put away the 2 items. She continued to walk forward. During the entire process, the 2 didn't say a word. They didn't even make eye contact. No one would have thought that these 2 seemingly unrelated people had some kind of connection. Half an hour later, Yun Luo carried the box of food to the entrance of Cloud Spirit Palace. Cloud Spirit Palace was the most sacred and dignified palace in Cloud Spirit Palace. It was also the palace of the patriarch, Yun Zhongqi. There were more than 10 guards guarding the entrance. Among them, there were 2 Sky Origin Stage Guard commanders. One of the commanders stopped Yun Luo and expressionlessly asked her why she had come. Yun Luo calmly bowed and explained, "Mistress ordered me to go to the kitchen and bring breakfast and elixirs to the patriarch." The guard commander did his job and carefully checked the box of food. After confirming that there was no problem, he let her go. Yun Luo carried the box of food into Cloud Spirit Palace. She calmly went up to the 2nd floor and walked towards Yun Zhongqi's room. When she walked out of the room and saw that there was no one around, she took out a mask and put it on her face. In the blink of an eye, she changed her face into Ji Tianqing's. Her figure also changed slightly. Her appearance was exactly the same as Ji Tianqing's. She pushed open the door and quietly entered the room. She saw that Yun Zhongqi was sitting on the bed with his eyes closed. He was concentrating on healing his injuries. It seemed that he didn't notice her arrival. Seeing this, a cold killing intent flashed in Yun Luo's eyes. "Yun Zhongqi, your time of death has come." Chapter 758. Yun Luo was only 20 steps away from Yun Zhongqi. She arrived in front of Yun Zhongqi in an instant and channeled a vast amount of true yuan into the Soul Reaping Bell. The mysterious and cold black bell instantly expanded a few hundred times and became a black ancient bell that was 3 meters tall. The ancient bell lit up with the gray light of death and released a formless soul-suppressing energy that came crashing down on Yun Zhongqi's head. Yun Zhongqi was a powerful cultivator in the soul refining stage, and Yun Luo was only in the sky origin stage, so she could only unleash 50% of the soul reaping bell's power. However, Yun Zhongqi was severely injured and his strength had decreased greatly. He was focused on healing himself and was completely unprepared. Yun Luo was confident that she could severely injure Yun Zhongqi with one strike and kill him with the soul reaping bell. Yun Luo watched as the soul reaping bell came crashing down on Yun Zhongqi from the sky and was about to envelop him. At this critical moment, Yun Zhongqi, who was circulating his energy to heal himself, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were clear and bright, and they shone with a sharp and cold light. His body exuded a domineering aura. At this moment, he was a powerful cultivator in the soul refining stage. He didn't look weak at all because of his injuries at all. "Bastard, I've been waiting for you for a long time." Yun Zhongqi roared furiously like muffled thunder. He suddenly raised his palms and unleashed a dazzling white divine soul light. The white light condensed into a palm that was as large as a millstone. It carried a terrifying power as it slammed into the soul reaping bell. Bang! With a loud bang, the soul reaping bell was sent flying. It smashed through the roof and flew into the sky above the palace. Yun Luo was caught off guard and was pushed back by the terrifying power. Before she could react, Yun Zhongqi waved his palm again and slammed it down on her. Bang! This palm hit her abdomen and sent her flying. She slammed into the wall with a dull thud. An incomparably violent true essence power surged into her body, instantly shattering her Yuan Dan and destroying several of her meridians. Yun Luo's core and meridians were destroyed, and her cultivation was crippled by Yun Zhongqi. She rolled on the ground and coughed violently as blood poured out of her nose and mouth. However, she didn't seem to feel any pain. She struggled to get up and stared at Yun Zhongqi with wide eyes. You're not injured. You were faking it. Yun Zhongqi stood up and stared at her with a sharp gaze. He said in a dignified voice, that's right. If I didn't do that, how would I have lured you out? Tian Xing was right. Not only do you want to deal with him, but you also want to assassinate me. Hearing Yun Zhongqi's words, Yun Luo's expression changed drastically. His heart was filled with shock and despair. She finally understood. Of Yun Luo. Of Yun Luo. It was all Yun Zhongqi and Ji Tianqing's scheme. Yun Luo stared at Yun Zhongqi in disbelief and roared in a low voice, you put on a show with Ji Tianqing to lure me out? You sacrificed the lives of a few ice prison guards and destroyed half of the ice prison and a few houses just to make me believe you? Yun Zhongqi, you're really vicious and cruel. In fact, Yun Luo believed Yun Zhongqi because half of the ice prison and a few houses were destroyed and many guards were killed. She didn't think that it was all a trap. Before Yun Zhongqi could say anything, a secret door suddenly opened on the wall of the room. A handsome figure walked out from the secret room behind the secret door and said with a cold smile, what's the big deal about destroying half of the ice prison and a few houses? It's just a few buildings. The craftsmen of Cloud's Spirit Palace can quickly rebuild them. As for the ice prison guards who were sacrificed, they were just faking their deaths. They can easily fool you. This was the voice of a young man. His tone was full of ridicule and contempt. Yun Luo subconsciously raised her head to look. When she saw the appearance of the white-robed young man, her body shook and her eyes were filled with hatred. Ji Tianqing. You're despicable. There was no doubt that the white-robed young man who walked out of the secret room was Ji Tianqing. Yun Luo stared at him coldly and said with gritted teeth, no wonder the guards of Cloud's Spirit Palace couldn't find you even after searching for half a night. You've been hiding in Yun Zhongqi's room all this time. Everything that happened last night was just a ruse. That's right, Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a cold smile, unfortunately, you realized it too late. With your intelligence, you still want to frame me? You're too naive. Yun Luo was so ashamed and angry that she vomited blood. At this point, she understood everything. Her plan was a complete failure and her cultivation was crippled. She was completely useless. In front of Yun Zhongqi and Ji Tianqing, she didn't have the qualifications to resist. Even escaping was a fantasy. She struggled to stand up and stared at Ji Tianqing with hatred. She cursed, Ji Tianqing, don't be so proud. Even if you can avoid this disaster, you'll still die sooner or later. Moreover, you'll die without a burial place. You'll end up 10 times worse than me. Ji Tianqing didn't get angry. He looked at her with pity and said calmly, you won't see when I die, but you'll die soon. Yun Zhongqi stared at Yun Luo with a sharp gaze. He waved his hand and shot out a 5-colored spirit light. It condensed into a spirit light hand and grabbed Yun Luo. He looked at Yun Luo from close range and said coldly, what a brilliant disguise technique. Even your aura is the same as Tianqing's. You really can pass off the fake as the real one. I want to see who you are. You've hidden so deeply. As soon as he finished speaking, he reached out and pinched Yun Luo's cheek and pulled off an exquisite human skin mask. Along with a light ripping sound, Yun Luo's mask was torn off, revealing his true appearance. Yun Luo. It's really you. Yun Zhongqi frowned and a trace of shock flashed through his eyes. Previously, when Ji Tianqing told him that the murderer was most likely Yun Luo, he didn't dare to believe it. Now, he finally believed it. Yun Zhongqi was filled with anger. He grabbed Yun Luo's neck and said in a deep voice, Yun Luo, you've been in Cloud's Spirit Palace for more than 10 years and have been loyal to the Yun family. In order to protect the mistress, you blocked a sword for her and almost lost your life. Because of your loyalty, I gave you the surname Yun and let you serve the mistress. The mistress also sees you as her confidant. When were you bribed and became a spy? Speak. Yun Luo knew that he was going to die, so he gave up struggling. He revealed a sinister sneer and said in a hoarse voice, "Ha ha ha. More than 10 years ago, from the first day I entered the Yun family, I was ordered by the mistress to infiltrate." Chapter 759. What a good trick. After Yun Zhongqi heard Yun Luo's explanation, he sneered angrily. He immediately understood that the other party had been plotting for more than 10 years. Yun Luo was the spy that the other party had planted in Cloud's spirit palace. She was the most important chess piece. Over the years, Yun Zhongqi had screened and purged the people in Cloud's spirit palace several times. He had already eliminated dozens of spies. However, he had missed Yun Luo. He did not expect that Yun Luo was the spy who had hidden herself the most deeply. He stared at Yun Luo sharply and asked in a deep voice, "Tell me, who is your master? The Duanmu family or the Murong family?" Yun Luo did not answer. Black blood kept flowing out of her nose and mouth, and her eyes slowly closed. It turned out that she knew that she was going to die. In order to not reveal the secret, she took the opportunity when Yun Zhongqi was not on guard and secretly took the poison hidden in her teeth. In the blink of an eye, she was corroded by the poison and died on the spot. Yun Zhongqi immediately frowned and said with a face full of anger, "Damn it. She actually took poison and killed herself." Ji Tianqing glanced at Yun Luo's body and said with a serious face, "This person is indeed the other party's death warrior. She would rather kill herself than reveal any information. However, uncle, don't worry. Yun Luo has other accomplices. If there are no accidents, Dr. Bailey has already caught that guy. Even if that guy wanted to kill himself, it would be impossible. If he fell into the hands of Dr. Bailey, it would be difficult for him to die even if he wanted to." Yun Zhongqi nodded and his expression softened. He remembered that when Yun Luo attacked him, she had used the black ancient bell. He released his spiritual sense and searched around the palace. After a while, he found the soul-reaping bell on the roof. Without the support of true core, it had turned back into a black bell. With a thought, Yun Zhongqi used his invisible divine soul power to wrap around the black bell and fly into the room. Swoosh! He reached out and grabbed the black bell. He held it in his palm and carefully observed it. He quickly discovered the secret of the soul-reaping bell, and his expression changed. What a sinister magic treasure! It's actually specialized in restraining the spiritual power. Fortunately, I was prepared. If this magic treasure had succeeded in its sneak attack, my spiritual power would have been severely injured and my strength would have dropped greatly. Ji Tianqing frowned as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He said coldly, "Humph. The other party is really willing to go all out. Their methods are truly vicious." At this moment, a guard captain came to the door and reported respectfully, reporting to Patriarch, "Divine Dr. Bailey and Mistress have arrived at the Great Assembly Hall and are waiting for you." Yun Zhongqi put away the soul-reaping bell and ordered in a dignified voice, "Pass down my orders. Gather all the elders and managers in the meeting hall for a discussion. I have important news to announce." "Understood." The guard captain bowed and saluted. Then, he quickly turned around and left to pass down the order. Yun Zhongqi then looked at Ji Tianqing with a kind smile on his face. "After a whole day of trouble and causing such a huge commotion, I can finally reveal the truth and clear your name." Ji Tianqing also revealed a relieved smile and nodded. Fortunately, it was resolved smoothly today. It won't affect tomorrow's birthday. After saying that, the two of them walked out of the room and went downstairs to the Great Assembly Hall. However, the scene of Yun Zhongqi carrying Yun Luo's corpse was a bit strange and horrifying. More than 10 people had already gathered in the Great Assembly Hall. Bailey Ningsu, Yun Yao, and Divine Dr. Bailey had all arrived. There were also a few elders and managers of the Yun family, as well as 2 guard captains. In addition, there was a middle-aged servant wearing gray linen clothes kneeling in the Great Assembly Hall. This person's entire body was covered in blood. His body was motionless as he knelt on the ground like a statue. He was Yun Luo's accomplice, the guy who was sweeping the garden. When he passed the jade slip and the soul-reaping bell to Yun Luo, he thought it was flawless. However, he didn't think that divine Dr. Bailey would be hiding in the dark and see everything. After he separated from Yun Luo, divine Dr. Bailey suddenly appeared and grabbed him. Although he struggled with all his might to escape, he couldn't escape from divine Dr. Bailey's grasp. Even if he took poison to commit suicide, it was useless. Divine Dr. Bailey instantly used his power to force out the poison and saved him. Furthermore, divine Dr. Bailey had crippled his cultivation and sealed his acupoints. He could only kneel on the ground like a stone statue. He couldn't even bite his tongue to commit suicide. All the elders, managers, and captains looked at the middle-aged servant with a puzzled expression. They didn't understand what was going on. Only divine Dr. Bailey, Bailey Ningsu, and Yun Yao knew the real reason and process of this matter. At this time, Yun Zhongqi carried Yun Luo's corpse and brought Ji Tianqing into the Great Assembly Hall. When everyone saw Ji Tianqing appear, they were shocked and puzzled. Ji Tianqing? Didn't he hide? He actually dares to appear. Quickly catch him. No. Why is he with the patriarch? Didn't Ji Tianqing assassinate the matriarch and injure the patriarch? Why is the patriarch safe and sound? What is going on? I'm confused. Although the elders, managers, and captains didn't understand what was going on, they all knew. However, everyone realized that there must be more to this matter than meets the eye. Everyone was puzzled and looked at Yun Zhongqi expectantly. They were waiting for him to reveal the truth. Yun Zhongqi walked into the Great Assembly Hall and threw Yun Luo's corpse beside the middle-aged servant. When Bailey Ningsu saw that Yun Luo was dead and his face was covered in blood, she sighed with mixed feelings. It's really her. Sigh. Just a moment ago, Yun Yao rushed to the Thousand Cloud Palace and told her everything. She told her that the murderer was Yun Luo. Naturally, she didn't believe it. Even if Yun Yao's words were reasonable, she couldn't accept this result. Until now, when she saw Yun Zhongqi carrying Yun Luo's corpse, she had no choice but to believe it. Yun Zhongqi walked to the throne in the Great Assembly Hall and sat down. His body emitted a powerful aura as he glanced at everyone. Everyone quieted down and looked at him with burning eyes, waiting for him to announce the result. Ji Tianqing walked to Yun Yao's side. When he saw Yun Yao's questioning look, he nodded slightly, indicating that everything had gone smoothly for Yun Yao. At this time, Yun Zhongqi said in a loud and dignified voice, "Everyone, a lot of things happened last night. The palace is in chaos and everyone is in a state of panic. Everyone thought that Ji Tianqing assassinated the matriarch and was locked in the underground ice prison by me. I wanted to order him to be executed, so he took the opportunity to sneak an attack on me. He severely injured me and escaped from the ice prison. But that's not the truth. Ji Tianqing was wrongly accused. This was a conspiracy by the Duanmu family and the Murong family against our Cloud Spirit Palace. After working together with Ji Tianqing, we finally found the truth and found the murderer." Chapter 760. Yun Zhongqi solemnly announced the result. After listening to his explanation, the crowd finally understood the cause and process of the matter. Everyone revealed a look of sudden realization and let out a burst of exclamations of anger, hatred, and admiration. I never thought that the truth would be like this. The Duanmu family and the Murong family are too despicable. They actually planted a spy in our Cloud Spirit Palace more than 10 years in advance. They are simply vicious. That damned Yun Luo, to think that our Yun family trusted her so much. She was actually the most hidden spy. You may know a person for a long time, but not their heart. Young Master Ji's intelligence is truly amazing. If it was anyone else who was framed by Yun Luo like this, they would be helpless and unable to defend themselves. That's right. No wonder young Miss is so devoted to young Master Ji. Young Master Ji is so talented and intelligent. He and young Miss are truly a match made in heaven. Last night, such a huge disturbance caused everyone to be in a state of panic. Fortunately, young Master Ji turned the tide and quickly resolved this disturbance. It won't affect tomorrow's birthday banquet. Our Yun family has a son-in-law like young Master Ji. Why should we worry about not being able to resist the Duanmu and Murong family's villains? The Yun family's elders, managers, and commanders were all enthusiastically discussing and exclaiming. While they hated the Duanmu and Murong family, they also admired Ji Tianqing's shrewdness and intelligence. In the eyes of the crowd, Ji Tianqing was condemned by everyone last night. The evidence was conclusive and there was almost no chance for him to clear his name. If it was anyone else in that situation, it would be impossible for them to prove their innocence, let alone find the real culprit. But Ji Tianqing did it. Moreover, he only used a short night to resolve this disturbance and successfully find the real culprit. Such an outstanding performance caused everyone present to exclaim in admiration. It would even be passed down as a legend that would spread throughout the Yun family. Even Bailey Ningsu had a whole new level of respect for Ji Tianqing, greatly favoring him. While everyone was discussing and exclaiming, she also turned her head to look at Ji Tianqing beside her. Her eyes were gentle and her tone was apologetic as she said, "Tianqing, I've wronged you last night. Auntie has not been deceived by the scoundrel and has always believed that you are innocent. It is only to find out the real culprit that I put you in." Without waiting for her to finish, Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded, "Auntie, you don't need to say more. Tianqing understands. You and Uncle Yun are the head and mistress of the family. You have a high position and are wise and farsighted, so of course you can see things clearly. How could Duanmu and the Murong family's crafty schemes deceive you?" Hearing him say this, Bailey Ningsu's gaze became even gentler, her impression of him becoming even better. Yunyao held Ji Tianqing's arm and pulled Bailey Ningsu's wrist, smiling, "Tianqing, mother, we're going to be a family soon. What's the point of saying such polite words? It's because we trust each other and work together as a family that we can quickly resolve the scoundrel's crafty schemes. As long as our hearts work together, even if Duanmu and the Murong family have more crafty schemes, we won't be afraid." And it's exactly like that. Bailey Ningsu quickly nodded, revealing a gratified expression. Ji Tianqing also smiled and nodded, tightly holding Yun Yao's slender hand. Their fingers intertwined, their hearts and minds connected. He sighed with emotion in his heart, only after experiencing the trials of wind and rain can one see true feelings. After last night's disturbance, not only did I not become enemies with the Yun family, we even became closer. Yao Yao's mother approved of me and we're even more like a family now. I wonder how Duanmu and the Murong family will feel when they hear this news. Following this, Yun Zhongqi interrogated the middle-aged servant in front of everyone. The middle-aged servant's cultivation had been crippled and he had become an ordinary person without the strength to truss a chicken. He had fallen into the hands of so many strong people and was in a situation where he could neither beg for life nor die. Even if he had a strong will, he wouldn't say anything even if he had to die. However, Miracle Dr. Bailey personally made him suffer, torturing him until he hovered between life and death, enduring unimaginable pain and suffering. In the end, the middle-aged servant was tortured to the point where he didn't even look human anymore and his will completely collapsed. He finally confessed the truth, only asking for a quick and painless death. I was originally an elite of the soul-hurting hall that the Duanmu family raised. I entered Cloud's Soul Palace 9 years ago and disguised myself as a spy. The Duanmu family head gave a secret order to have Luo assassinate Bailey Ningsu and frame Ji Tianqing for the sake of breaking the relationship between Ji Tianqing and the Yun family. This morning, the Duanmu family head found out that Cloud's Soul Palace was in chaos and ordered me to give the soul reaping bell to Luo so that he could assassinate Yun Zhongqi. The middle-aged servant intermittently confessed the truth and told everyone about Duanmu Huang's plan. Finally, everyone understood the whole story. After he finished, Yun Zhongqi fulfilled his wish and gave him a quick and painless death. This matter was finally over and the disturbance from last night was finally settled. Yun Zhongqi had the guards take the middle-aged servant and Yun Luo's corpse away. He then announced in a dignified voice, "Tomorrow is Miracle Dr. Bailey's 300th birthday. Now that the disturbance has settled, everyone should quickly clean up the mess and prepare for tomorrow's birthday banquet. He gave a series of orders and assigned tasks to all the elders, managers, and commanders. After the meeting was over, everyone left the meeting hall and went to carry out their respective tasks. Everyone spread the news and it quickly spread throughout Cloud Soul Palace. Everyone in the Yun family knew the truth of the matter. Originally, everyone in Cloud Soul Palace was in a state of panic. Tens of thousands of people were discussing the matter and rumors were spreading everywhere. After everyone learned the truth, they all calmed down. Then, they erupted into even more heated discussions and exclamations. The entire Yun family had a clearer understanding of Ji Tianqing's shrewdness and wisdom. They respected and worshipped him even more. Soon, everyone in the Yun family began to get busy. Many guests from Central State had arrived at Cloud Soul Palace early. The first elder led the disciples of the Yun family in charge of welcoming and greeting the guests and arranging accommodations for them. The second elder was in charge of cleaning up the mess. He led a large group of guards and craftsmen to rebuild the buildings and repair the damaged underground ice prison. The third elder and fourth elder were in charge of preparing for the birthday banquet. The commanders of the guards were in charge of maintaining the peace of Cloud Soul Palace. In short, everything returned to normal and Cloud Soul Palace became lively again. Yun Yao and Ji Tianqing chatted for a while before going to Thousand Cloud Palace to accompany Bailey Ningsu. Ji Tianqing returned to Hefeng Garden by himself. The little black dragon and Qian Yu had been waiting in Hefeng Garden for news. They had been waiting anxiously for a long time and were filled with worry. Seeing him return safely, the little black dragon and Qian Yu felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. They excitedly came up to him and asked about what had happened. Ji Tianqing brought the two of them back to his room. He sat down and drank tea as he recounted what had happened. Last night's events had been filled with twists and turns. The little black dragon and Qian Yu were excited and intoxicated as they listened. The night quickly passed and a new day arrived. Chapter 761. Since early morning, many guests had arrived at Cloud Spirit Palace. These guests were dressed luxuriously and had extraordinary bearings. They were the leaders and experts of the various forces in Central State. Everyone entered Cloud Spirit Palace in an endless stream, bringing rich gifts with them. The great elder of Cloud Spirit Palace and many disciples of the Yun family welcomed the guests warmly at the entrance of Cloud Spirit Palace and settled the guests down. After the guests entered Cloud Spirit Palace, some of them rested in the guest rooms while others strolled around the palace and enjoyed the scenery. Most of them gathered in groups of 3 to 5. They either talked loudly or secretly about important matters. All the major forces had received the news in advance. Cloud Spirit Palace was holding a birthday banquet for Miracle Dr. Bailey to use this opportunity to rally the heroes and participate in this grand event. Many of the forces had enmity with the Duanmu family or had animosity and conflicts. They were not qualified to go against the Duanmu family and could only swallow their anger. Now that Cloud Spirit Palace had stood out and wanted to have an open battle with the Duanmu family, of course they would use this opportunity to take revenge and beat the Duanmu family while they were down. There were also many forces that had no enmity or relationship with the Duanmu family. They just wanted to use this opportunity to gain support from Cloud Spirit Palace and gain more benefits. In short, most of the forces and experts who came to Cloud Spirit Palace for the birthday banquet were on Cloud Spirit Palace's side. Many of the forces were full of anticipation for the big event that Cloud Spirit Palace was about to announce. Of course, among the guests, there were some people with evil intentions who were secretly observing the situation and movements in Cloud Spirit Palace. These people were spies from the Murong family and the Duanmu family. They had deliberately disguised their identities and sneaked in to gather information. As long as they did not cause trouble, it would be difficult for people to detect them. In addition, there were many young talents in Cloud Spirit Palace. They gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and discussed another matter. Most of these young martial artists were handsome and elegant. They were all genius disciples from various big families and forces. As early as half a month ago, they had already received the news that Miracle Dr. Bailey had returned to the central region and would no longer travel the world. Miracle Dr. Bailey felt that he was old and wanted to use this opportunity to pick a young talent to be his last disciple and teach him the medical skills that he had spent his life practicing. Everyone in the world knew that Miracle Dr. Bailey was the top miracle doctor in the continent. His medical skills were unparalleled in the world, and he had the miraculous ability to bring the dead back to life. If one could obtain the inheritance of divine Dr. Bailey's medical skills, it would be a supreme glory that would make everyone in the world jealous. Even if he could only learn 30% to 50% of his skills, he would definitely be praised as a divine doctor. Moreover, if anyone could become Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple, not only would they have the support of a peerless miracle doctor, they would also have the backing of Cloud's Spirit Palace. There were also many honors and substantial benefits that could last for 3 days and 3 nights. In short, if he could acknowledge divine Dr. Bailey as his master, that would be a heaven-sent opportunity to reach the heavens in a single bound. The young geniuses of the various powers of the Central Plains were all filled with excitement when they heard the news. Today, 80% of the young talents who came to Cloud's Spirit Palace to celebrate the birthday had brought an extremely generous gift for apprenticeship. They were prepared to present it to Miracle Dr. Bailey, hoping to gain Miracle Dr. Bailey's appreciation and favor. As time passed, more and more guests arrived at Cloud's Spirit Palace. The palace became more and more lively. Ji Tianqing had been meditating and cultivating in Hefeng Garden. He paid no attention to the outside world and focused on cultivating the pure heart demon suppression art. He was now at the 6th level of the Sky Origin stage. His cultivation base was stable and his martial arts were profound. He was not far from the 7th level of the Sky Origin stage. He had already cultivated the ultimate sword body. Next, he needed to cultivate the 9th level of the Sword Heart Tao. Once he successfully condensed the Sword Heart, he would have completed the cultivation of the Sword Heart Tao. However, the 9th level of the Sword Heart Tao was the most difficult secret skill to cultivate. He needed to merge the sword embryo and the heart and then refine it into the sword heart. How difficult and inconceivable was this? Ji Tianqing estimated that he would need at least 3 to 4 years of hard work to truly cultivate the Sword Heart Tao and condense the sword heart. Such an extremely fast cultivation speed was already shocking. He could be called a peerless genius. However, he was not satisfied. He still felt that this cultivation speed was too slow. Ever since he started cultivating the pure heart demon suppression art, he accidentally discovered that this art could refine the heart. It was extremely powerful and helpful for him to condense the sword heart. Therefore, he had been cultivating the pure heart demon suppression art. He wanted to condense the sword heart Tao as soon as possible. Unknowingly, a day passed quickly. It was evening. Under the golden light of the setting sun, Cloud's Spirit Palace shone with golden light. It was magnificent and exuded a sacred and solemn aura. The banquet was about to begin. The main hall of Cloud's Spirit Palace had been properly decorated. It was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. It was a joyous scene. In the square in front of the hall, which could accommodate thousands of people, there were over 100 tables. There were all kinds of spiritual fruits, pastries, and fine wines on the tables. Countless distinguished guests rushed to the square in front of the hall to wait for the banquet to begin. Everyone in the Yun clan was ready. They only needed to wait for the clan leader's order to start the banquet. Ji Tianqing also finished his cultivation. He left Hefeng Garden and rushed to the main hall of Cloud's Spirit Palace. When he arrived at the square in front of the hall, he saw that there were over 2,000 people gathered in the huge square. Other than the guards of Cloud's Spirit Palace standing around and over 100 maids of the Yun clan, there were over 2,000 guests in the square. These guests were all leaders, and young talents of the major forces in the Central Plains. They were all influential figures in the Central Plains, and were all famous heroes. Ji Tianqing's eyes swept across the square. With just a few glances, he could tell that the guests were from over 100 wealthy clans and forces. Cloud's Spirit Palace is indeed worthy of being one of the 3 great thousand ancient families. It has such great prestige and appeal. It seems that at least half of the first-rate wealthy clans in the Central Plains are here. While Ji Tianqing was pondering silently, a familiar voice suddenly sounded in his ears. "Hey, Tianqing, why are you here?" It was the voice of a young man. There was a hint of surprise in his tone. Ji Tianqing subconsciously turned his head to look. He saw a young martial artist in a green robe. He had a dignified appearance and was looking at him with a smile. He immediately recognized that this person was Ling Yishui. "Senior brother Ling, you're here too." Ji Tianqing nodded at him and greeted him. Ling Yishui quickly came in front of him and said with a smile, "Cloud Spirit Palace is holding a birthday banquet. Miracle Dr. Bailey is celebrating his 300th birthday. How can I miss it? Of course, I'm here to ask for a cup of wine." He was the crown prince of the monarch mansion. He was the top genius of the human race. Of course, he was qualified to attend this birthday banquet. Cloud Spirit Palace would even treat him as an honored guest. Ji Tianqing was just a little confused. He asked, "Senior brother Ling, why are you staying in the square? Why don't you go to the hall and sit?" Ling Yishui waved his hand and said with a smile, "Those sitting in the hall are the leaders of the various forces. They are all senior experts who want to discuss important matters with Patriarch Yun. I'm just here to join in the fun. I just want to stay in the square and have a chat with the crown princes of the same generation." Hearing him say that, Ji Tianqing saw that there were indeed 3 young talents 5 steps behind him. The 3 of them were all crown princes of the human race. Ji Tianqing had seen them a few times. He was not unfamiliar with them. 2 of them had even participated in the fight for the title of Heavenly Stellar Territory Lord. They were Lu Ziyuan and Yi Yifan. Noticing Ji Tianqing's gaze on them, the 3 of them hastily walked over and cupped their fists towards Ji Tianqing. "Greetings, Senior Brother Ji." Senior Brother Ji is even more elegant than before. The strength, status, and reputation of the 3 of them were not much different from Ling Yishui. However, compared to Ji Tianqing, they were far behind. Their attitude towards Ji Tianqing was somewhat respectful. When they spoke, they had smiles on their faces. Their tone revealed a sense of closeness.